Brian Torres grabs a bat in the ninth inning. Cardinals have him to hit lefty-righty here. You know, Gorman's issues with strikeout, especially on the changeup. Little flare into shallow center. Ewing broke back, but recovers. And the Cardinals have one out left.
That's what it sounded like yesterday on Cardinals TV alongside Alex and T-Bone. I'm BK. It is 11:08. Your time check brought to you by Clarkson Jewelers, an officially licensed Rolex
Might
jeweler.
be the latest we've gotten in.
No, man.
No?
No.
No?
We've had worse.
No, I don't think so. Those guys are typically on time with that. 11:08 is the
I don't know
latest.
if we can talk trash. We were kind of behind yesterday, too, you know?
By 2 minutes.
Yeah, I was saying, both days we got to them by at least 2 after.
I think this is a little different, man. It's Friday. We're good.
The segment prior to getting them probably didn't sound great on our part, but that's fine.
Brad Thompson joining us here in about, 15 minutes, roughly, here on BK and Ferrario. I thought that was a significant moment yesterday. I know they said on the broadcast, hey, Gorman struggles against changeups. Yeah, he struggles against everything.
I think he struck out at a fastball up and in his first at-bat.
At this point, it doesn't matter what opposing pitchers are throwing to him. Yes, the changeup is definitely giving him some struggles, as do breaking balls, as do fastballs. There is nothing that you can throw against Nolan Gorman that he's hitting with much authority whatsoever. Now, him against changeups is like the worst. He has an .056 batting average and 0 extra base hits against them so far this season. So, yes, it is worse against that than it is against breaking pitches, which he's hitting 200 against with a slugging percentage of 240. But he ain't good against really much of anything right now, Alex. It's just been a huge struggle for him. I did find it interesting that they decided to go to a pinch hitter in that specific spot and that the pinch hitter was Brian Torres. They've also now started to go to Jose Fermin against lefties that are on the mound. Do you think we're starting to see the early signs of changes that could be coming at that position?
Yeah, you don't go, which if we can get our updated tally check of what he is right now, 3 for 55.
Ooh.
You don't go 3 for 55 and use the narrative
How many walks?
5.
2, right?
Oh, wow.
He's got 5 in that
He's got
stretch?
5 in that
Wow.
stretch in 17 games. He's got 5
that's pretty
walks.
good.
He's got 27
I was
strikeouts.
going to say, he's also striking out 50%.
You don't go
It's not so good.
3 for 55 and have a narrative of, well, he hits good against righties. No, you're not really good right now against anything. So to me, that makes sense. Now, you played him against the righty, which I'm not going to be upset about. You want to see if you can get him going, and frankly, you just don't have any other options. But yeah, I think we're seeing signs of, look, against lefties, you're going to see Jose Fermin getting those starts. And against righties, you're probably going to get 2 at-bats for Nolan Gorman, but when you get later into the game in a pivotal situation, because he's hitting at the bottom of the order, you're going to see them turn to Torres or Fermin. And frankly, for Nolan Gorman, you're going to get 2 at-bats, maybe 3 to try and get things going. But otherwise, your job has been replaced by Fermin against lefties and Torres or whomever by about the 7th inning against righties.
This stretch that you're talking about, it's his last 17 games. How many times in that 17-game stretch do you think he has multiple strikeouts in a game? How many games in the last 17 do you think he has multiple strikeouts in those games?
10.
Not quite. It's 8. 8 of the 17 games, he has multiple strikeouts in them. 27 of his last 50 at-bats have resulted in a strikeout. I'm ready, guys. I think it's time for them to try something new. Yeah.
All right, T-Bone, cue it.
I just don't think you can continue going back to him at this point. You're 50% of the time that he comes up to the plate, he strikes out. That's unacceptable. Like, it's no longer just a situation where, hey, he's trying to get himself back on track. Yeah, he was, and now it's time to go to something different. You've got Joe Ryan on the mound today. I understand he throws with his right hand. I don't care. You've got to go to somebody different. And to me, that means Brian Torres should be starting at third today. Mm-hmm. And tomorrow, I believe they're going up against a lefty, if I'm not mistaken. If you're going up against a lefty, that means Jose Fermin should start for you. And then on Sunday, you're going up against Taj Bradley. I would rather see somebody other than Nolan Gorman get the start. But if you want to start him one game in the series, maybe that's the game that you get him an opportunity. It's a day game on Sunday. Go ahead and start him there. But beyond that, Alex, I'm good here. I don't feel the need to see Nolan Gorman getting these opportunities. And frankly, at this point, I am not somebody that's been calling for this. And I don't think it's going to work. But if you wanted to make the switch today of Blaze Jordan up, Nolan Gorman down, I'd be fine with it.
Yeah.
I'm not going to be somebody that would criticize such a move. I don't think they're doing it. Blaze Jordan started yesterday. They're on the road in Minnesota. If that's going to happen, my guess is it would happen next week when they get back home here to St. Louis against the San Diego Padres. But this Gorman experience needs to be over sooner rather than later. I hope he's able to get it figured out. I think it would be good for the Cardinals if he can, because he's probably still your best and highest ceiling option at third base. But it's so bad right now that I can't even make the case right now that he's currently your best option.
Yeah, and I'm kind of beyond his ceiling is probably the highest you have in that position. Man, we've done this long enough. I'm not going to sit here and keep acting as if at some point you're going to break through and he's going to become that 40 home run hitter. I mean, it sure doesn't seem like the Cardinals view Blaze Jordan as a third baseman, but I'm with you. You just can't play Nolan Gorman at that spot anymore. He frankly just can't be in your lineup. If you're going to treat Pedro Pajes and Victor Scott as two guys that, look, man, you got to hit if you want to play, then the same thing should go for Nolan Gorman. Now, those two had easy replacements. This one doesn't seem like it does if they don't view Blaze Jordan that direction, but at any point, Nolan Gorman shouldn't be getting starts for you because he's just a black hole in your lineup. The real question, in my opinion, is, does he go to AAA? Does it make any sense to send him to AAA? Or do you just keep him as a bench bat and move on at the end of the season?
It makes more sense to send him to AAA.
Otherwise, I don't know how you get somebody.
I'm with you, but I'm not going to act as if AAA, when he starts to hit, he's coming back up and he's going to be fixed. At that point, I'm done.
But he's not hitting here.
Yeah.
He doesn't have a role here either.
I think
if you put him on your bench, when are you using him?
Oh, nothing. He's a ghost at that point.
If you're putting him on the bench, I mean, I guess that means you're not making a roster move to call somebody up. Because like if you want to do the Blaze Jordan thing, somebody's got to go down. Yeah. And if it's not Gorman, then who? I don't want to pull from anybody else from this roster.
I think if you send Gorman to AAA, you're just hoping that he can start hitting down there and another team becomes interested in him.
I mean, maybe that's the case, or maybe he eventually gains some more confidence. It might be a mental thing right now, or he's just lost. He's going up to the plate and he does not. Now, he's never a guy that's got a ton of energy. He's getting up there ready to go. That's not him. And so even when he's going well, it doesn't look overly optimistic. But right now, my confidence level is at an all-time low with him, and I would assume his confidence level in himself is at an all-time low. So maybe this is just a situation where he needs to go down and feel what it's like to go 10 for 15 over a 5-game stretch, right? And I think you could potentially do that at AAA. And you're right, Alex. That doesn't mean it's going to translate to the major league level. We've seen other guys that go down there and come back up, and it does not look the same way that it did in AAA.
And they've tried that before with Nolan Gorman.
Sure, but that was a couple of years ago. You can't keep doing this. And if he's on your bench, I'm not utilizing him as a pinch hitter for anybody on my roster right now. What's the situation where you're using this guy? It doesn't exist. So if I feel better about other options and I don't feel like he's some gold glove defender, you're not using him to pinch run for anybody. He has no role. He's either a starter for you or he's in AAA. That's the honest to God truth of the matter. So to me, that's why I'm making that move, Alex, is it's less about getting him right or figuring it out, although that's helpful, I suppose, and more about I need to get these other dudes chances here. And he serves no role for me if he's sitting on my bench. I would rather have somebody else that's at the AAA level right now that can actually help me in certain spots. That may be Ramon Mendoza, who can come up and be a right-handed bat that can play everywhere for you. And you probably don't feel bad about DFAing him after you decide to make another roster move. Maybe that's the kind of thing that you do. I don't know, but it shouldn't be Nolan Gorman for a whole lot longer.
Yeah, I don't even think the whole lot longer should be. It shouldn't be Nolan Gorman. Now is the point where I know what you're saying with Blaze. You can't bring him up. You're not going to bring him up when you're in Minnesota. You'd probably wait till you come back home. Then for these 3 games, it should be Fermin and Urias. And when you return home, even if you don't believe he's a third baseman, Blaze Jordan should be with the team. Yeah, Torres. Sorry, Torres.
I don't think Urias is coming through that door anytime soon. If he was, I think that's your answer. Yeah. I think
Can't you swing with one hand?
I think their plan was for them to go to Urias.
Yeah.
And when he re-injured the other elbow,
They went, oh, bleep.
Yeah, I think they now have to, try to make it work for a few games, and it's been worse than it was
probably
before.
Why they moved Blaze to first to tell people, hey, we're not doing it. And then Urias went down again. It's like, crap. Go back to third, Blaze. We might need you.
And he's been playing there over the last few days again. So I do wonder if that's some of this is, all right, keep working at it. See if there's anything there. And eventually, I think they've got to
just try it. So then, if anything, people will stop asking for it once you see it at the major league level. And I know that's not the way you operate your big league club, but you also don't operate your big league club with a guy that's 3 for 55.
I don't think he's going to start. Like, if they called up Blaze Jordan, my guess is he would not start at third base. I think he would be an option for them coming off of the bench. Yeah. And he'd be a guy that occasionally gets starts against lefties.
See, I would rather start it, play 2 innings of him at third, and then replace him defensively once you score runs.
Yeah, but you can't guarantee that. I think they would view it as, we'll use him in the best spot possible, where we're going to get something out of him. Kind of like Velasquez, where Velasquez is not a guy that's starting every day. He's occasionally getting starts against lefties, primarily as a designated hitter, and occasionally you'll suffer the fate of whatever comes with him in the outfield, because he's so good against left-handed pitching right now. And I think you would need to see proof of concept as a hitter from Blaze Jordan before he earns the kind of role that Velasquez currently has on your roster. But for right now, I think that's Brian Torres or it's Jose Fermin. I think those would be the guys for me that I would platoon at that spot.
Yeah. Whatever the decisions you go with, it shouldn't be Nolan Gorman again. It's to the point now where that you're not expecting anything from it. And right now I'd put other guys, just like I did with Nathan Church, into that position and say, look, even if you're going to swing and miss, go out there and play that position, because you can give us some competitive at-bats.
In 10 minutes, we're going to be joined by Brad Thompson. You can get your questions in for Ask Us Anything coming up at 11:45. That's 314-399-9646 is the Air Comfort Service text line. Alongside Alex and T-Bone, I'm BK. Coming up next, Robert Thomas was on TMA just a little bit ago, gave an update on where things stand between he and the St. Louis Blues. We'll discuss that next year on 101 ESPN. Robert Thomas was on with TMA earlier today alongside Alex and T-Bone on BK. He was asked by the guys about his current situation with the Blues, if everything has been resolved, and what his plans are for the upcoming year. Here's Robert Thomas on with TMA.
Yeah, no, that's not changed at all. I don't think really much has changed. You know, me and my family love being in St. Louis. You know, our daughter was born here. She loves it here, and nothing's really changed. So just kind of going about that. Obviously, spending a lot of time in St. Louis, which is nice and exciting. So I don't think anything's really changed.
Is that conversation gone away at least? Have you and Steen had a chance to talk kind of moving forward that you're all on the same page at this point? Yeah.
There's been conversations, and, you know, we feel like the page is kind of turning on that. And, you know, we're looking forward to next year, and obviously anything can happen, but, you know, I think we're moving towards next year and how we can make the team better.
At this point, can we put the Robert Thomas trade conversations to rest, Alex? Or do you still think this is something that fans should be open to?
No, I would put it to rest. Between Andy Strickland's reporting last week of saying, like, you know, the expectation is he to be back, and now hearing Thomas, and I know for a fact that the team has had conversations with all of the players going into the offseason before they did their scouting combine trip. So I think the conversations have been had. I believe Robert Thomas saying, like, yeah, the page is turned now from this past trade deadline. And I also believe teams know what the asking price is, and they're not going to pay it, which is fine, because I don't think the Blues should trade him unless they get the price that they're asking for returned. Like, I saw the rumor of what Philadelphia was asked for. I saw what the rumor was Utah was asked for. Montreal was asked for. Those teams know what it's cost, and I think they'll probably call. I don't believe the Blues have any appetite to trade him, because I think they've decided what direction they're going. So, yeah, I think the page is turned, and I would say for Blues fans, any rumor that shows up of, well, Robert Thomas's name is still out there, to me, that's just noise now. I think that's a dead deal.
I also think that's just them doing their due diligence.
For sure.
Yeah, of course they're listening. Everybody listens on guys. That doesn't mean there's going to be any kind of activity.
Yeah.
Like the Blues can have somebody call, and they may be talking about, I don't know, Logan Mailloux or Pius Suter or whoever else on the roster. And then the opposing general manager says, hey, by the way, I know you guys were talking about Robert Thomas at the deadline. Is that still something you'd consider? And whether it's Steen or Army on the other side of the line, they're like, hey, listen, it's not something that we're looking to do, but what were you thinking about? And they say, hey, Connor McDavid actually wants out, and he's a big fan of toasted ravioli.
Really?
And Robert Thomas is the exact kind of player that we'd be looking for in return for Connor McDavid. Is that something you're interested in?
Robert Thomas is into toasted ravioli too.
And then you say, like, yeah, okay, we'll have conversations. But barring something like that,
how about a first-round pick?
It doesn't seem realistic. Also, doesn't seem like something they should do.
Yeah.
I said this at the trade deadline. My stance has not changed. When you have a 26-year-old centerman who is great both ways and has the ability to consistently put up a point per game every season that he's healthy, and this season when he wasn't healthy, and he's a guy that now finally has some line mates that I think are going to be able to take advantage of his natural gifts with Holloway and Snuggerud. That's a guy you build around. That's the guy that you potentially make into the next captain. That is not a guy that you trade.
Yeah.
So I do not think this is going to be the offseason where they make that kind of a move. Also, as you were going to see this offseason, these salaries are about to explode across the league. I think Alex Tuch's going to get 12 plus. Mm-hmm. I think Jason Robertson's going to get 14 plus. Mm-hmm. I think you're going to see some other teams that are re-signing some of their own players. And the center position market is going to be, for players like Robert Thomas, $12 plus million a year, which means you effectively have like a 35 to 40% pay cut from Thomas relative to what the market should bear for a player like him. That's when you really get to start to take advantage of him as a player. Is when other peers that put up similar kind of production are making nearly twice as much money as him. He is that kind of a bang for your buck value. You keep him.
Yep.
And you build around him, and you hope to God you're able to build a team that contends with some of these other teams out there.
Real quick, you said it best. He's got line mates that can get his assets the best use, and their assets can be best used. And I think Robert Thomas with Holloway and Snuggerud has the potential to be a 90 to 100 point player. That's an $8 million guy for 100 points. I'll take that any day of the week. It's just a matter of getting him there.
Even if he's not.
Yeah.
An $8 million guy for 70 or 80 points is a bargain bin basement value.
Well, Nico Heischer's reported as between 11 and 13, and he's a 50 to 60 point player.
Exactly. If Robert Thomas were to hit the market today, if he were a free agent,
12 to 13 mil.
I think maybe even more.
I think 15 potentially.
I know that sounds crazy, but these teams are desperate for centermen.
Yeah.
Desperate. And at his age, 26 years old, a guy who wins more than 50% of his faceoffs, who is, a top 10 center defensively in the league right now, and can get you consistently 80-plus points, that gets you, at a minimum, $13 million a year.
That's why I think what T-Bone said was right. Teams that wanted Robert Thomas missed their chance, because I think he was ready to deal him at the deadline. And after the deadline settled, after Steen started to get a little bit more in command, I think teams, it's now just a pipe dream to acquire Robert Thomas.
Alongside Alex and T-Bone, I'm BK. 314-399-9646. That is the Air Comfort Service text line. We'll get to Ask Us Anything in 15 minutes. Brad Thompson, Cardinals analyst, joins us next here on 101 ESPN.
Tanner Hendrickson here with the Sports Center update brought to you by Universal Windows Direct. Cardinals fell to the Mets yesterday 5-4, but they took 2 of 3 from New York. They now head out to Minnesota, where they'll start a 3-game set tonight. 7:10 will be first pitch. Kyle Leahy will be on the mound for St. Louis. Joe Ryan will get the start for the Minnesota Twins. The Sports Center update was brought to you by Universal Windows Direct. You'll be saying, I love my windows.
Alex, we need to start out by apologizing to our friend Brad Thompson, Cardinals analyst for Cardinals TV, joins us weekly here on BK and Ferrario via the Kiley and Thompson hotline. We were told, hey, we need to get to him by 11:30, and we did not accomplish that goal. It is 11:32. Your time check brought to you by Clarkson Jewelers, an officially licensed Rolex jeweler. But BT, I will tell you, take the credit, pass the blame. We did not get into the show today until 11:08, so it's not totally on us.
Yeah, we went quick in other segments.
Okay, that's fine. And look, I don't care that we were a couple of minutes late. That is totally fine. I will say this, though. There are a couple of things with you starting late on the show. And this is one that Kerry Davis used to say, and this is a great coaching saying from Coach Rick Venturi. Kerry Davis used to use it, and Rick Venturi, I think, coined it. You're either coaching it or you're allowing it. So you're either telling the show, TMA, that, hey, man, you guys are doing a great job. You should run over on your time, or you're just turning the blind eye and allowing it to happen. So one of those two things is happening for you guys. Either way, I'm excited to join you. I totally forgot you were calling. I was mid-round throwing heavy ball BP to my kids' team. We're here in Omaha, Nebraska, playing in a huge tournament. Game one under our belts already. The Bombers, as you didn't ask, so I'm just going to tell you.
Please.
18-8 winners in game one. And now, look, we got our hands full in game two. The Nebraska Dominators have put together a good season to this point, so we'll see how it goes.
It's a great name, the Dominators. By the way, JR's son's out in that tournament too, BT, so keep an eye out for Eli Rutherford.
I got to give JR a call.
Yeah. He took the lovely scenic drive to Omaha, Nebraska on Wednesday, so I told him he's going to love it.
Heck yeah. No, it was beautiful. Yeah, we did the drive yesterday. We're doing we're doing the 4-game guarantee. He might be doing the longer game guarantee. You know, big money over there in the JR household.
That's true. That's true.
Yeah, you can't hide money.
It's that athletic money, BT.
By the way, to answer the question, are we coaching it or are we allowing it? We're allowing it. They bring in a lot of revenue for the station, BT. I don't know if you've heard. And say, if they go over by a few minutes, we'll figure it out from there.
I don't know if you've seen our billboards around St. Louis of BK and Ferrario, but we're kind of a big deal.
You know what? I don't drive enough. That's all. That's on me.
All right, BT, let's talk a little bit about these Cardinals. They win 2 out of 3 out in New York. Overall, played a pretty good series, I would say. I want to start out with the starter from yesterday. What did you see from Hunter Dobbins? What stood out to you in his first real opportunity to be a full-time starter for the Cardinals here?
Yeah, look, first of all, I like the resiliency in him. That is not the start that you wanted, giving up a pair of bombs early and you just struggling to have a 3 spot in the first inning. But the kid's unflappable. Like, I really like that, and that's something that Heim had mentioned when he brought him over. He said, look, when he was a rookie last year with Boston, he's in New York, and he's chirping fans, like with the Yankees. Like, he ain't taking crap from anybody, and I like that. And I think the stuff plays for him, right? So we saw him get the spot start against Pittsburgh. We saw him get this start yesterday. He was fantastic in 2 long relief appearances and really saved your bullpen. I think that it's very safe to say that Hunter Dobbins could absolutely be a part of this rotation in the future. Right? I think that he's got the stuff to do it. I think that he's still tweaking his arsenal and figuring out how to best utilize it. But he's got swing and miss. His fastball plays, especially at the top of the zone. He's got the stuff off of that he keeps hitters off balance. I like what we've seen out of Dobbins.
We've talked with Derek Gould about this too, BT, of, Dobbins potentially just staying in this 6-man rotation and how long they can go with that. What does that do for the Cardinals if they continue with this 6-man rotation to keep Hunter Dobbins a part of this?
Yeah, I don't know if I like the 6-man rotation in general. I like having it every once in a while to build in the 6-day rest that when you're not getting the off day, which, the Cardinals were trying to build in another off day, especially for May, this turnaround. The only reason I don't like it is it leaves you a man short in the pen, right? Like, that ends up being tough. At some point, you're going to end up needing that. So we'll see exactly how they handle this. I'd be surprised if they go with it for a longer extended period of time. But who knows, right? Like, all you can do when you're that guy, if you're getting the opportunity, whether it's as a spot starter or 6-man for a time or 2 around, whatever it is put your best foot forward. And I know from talking to Ollie, from talking to Dusty, they really like Dobbins. Like, they love everything about him, the competitiveness, and certainly the stuff that he has. But it does ultimately, back to the point of why I don't like it for a long run, it just leaves you short in the pen.
All right, BT. I've got to ask you about Gorman. So he's.
I thought we were talking all happy. Everybody was happy.
Well, it could be. Wait for it. Let's get the spin right here.
Spin rate.
Okay, good.
So Gorman striking out about 50%
sound like you were
of the
spinning in a
time.
positive way when you said I have to ask you about something.
Yeah, well, give me just a minute here. I'll find a way.
he's not
Gorman in his
going
last 15 games striking out about 50% of the time. We talked in our open today about potentially maybe seeing some alternatives at that spot. Let me ask it this way, BT. If the Cardinals turn third base to somebody different, who do you think is most deserving of that opportunity?
It's a great question. I have no idea. Like at this point, right, it's very evident that Blaze Jordan is not a third baseman, because if so, he'd be playing third base in the minor leagues, and he'd probably be up here by now. So that's not the case. And like those, and I know that you guys have talked to people. I've talked to plenty of people. He ain't the answer over at third base, not because his bat doesn't play, the glove doesn't play over there. That's just not where he's going to be. I think that you could see Fermin getting some more at bats over there at third base. I think that he's been solid. At the end of the day, I know this is last year was a runway year, but this was like a prove it year for a lot of guys. You are getting to a point where this team is playing above expectations, and you have to figure out the best way to set your best foot forward as a club. And when Gorman's scuffling the way that he is, it's hard to believe that that's going to be the answer every single day, right? And he knows that. They know that. He's putting plenty of pressure on himself, and I'm sure that it's been a rough road for him. But I think they're getting close to we gotta start seeing some more production, or we're going to start mixing and matching. You're already seeing it late in games, right? He's not facing a lefty. Like, you're going to turn that over as quickly as possible. Like, I want it to happen for him so bad, not as bad as he does, obviously, because you know the power potential that he brings. You know the excitement that can be there in his game, but the times right now are few and far between for those.
Is there?
What about you, though? When you guys are looking at it, who do you want to see over there?
Torres, I know he's not an actual third baseman, but hey, man.
Yeah, you want his bat in the lineup, though.
Yeah. Fermin against a lefty, I think makes a lot of sense. And listen, I'm with you, BT. I don't think Blaze Jordan is a third baseman, but if you're going to make this switch and you decide, hey, Gorman, we're probably not going to use you off the bench. There's really not a situation that's going to arise where we're going to use you over some of the alternatives. Maybe you do send him down the way that you did with Vic, try to get his head right, if nothing else, try to get his confidence back, and maybe you do make the call up of Blaze Jordan and he starts there once or twice a week. I think you just go with a bunch of different options, see who sticks and who ends up earning that opportunity the way that Nathan Church has in center field.
Yeah, look, I think that everything is in play right now for the Cardinals and the way that they handle him. And that's a good thing, right? You don't want them just to be, hey, line drawn in the sand. Nope, it's the whole year and you can struggle as bad as you want. No, that's you don't get a whole season of that. You also don't get 1 month and we're going to overreact and send somebody down. But I'm with you, dude. I really do believe that there are a lot of balls in the air when it comes to that situation and the roster in general right now. They've shown you it can be fluid. They will move some pieces around. So what we see for a lineup right now, or what we're seeing day in and day out, that could drastically change over the next month plus.
BT, appreciate the time, man. Enjoy yourself out there in Omaha. We'll talk with you again next week.
All right, guys, we're going to try to dominate the dominators. I'll let you know.
Hell yeah. Please keep us updated.
Yeah, hit us 18 bombs in this one.
Right.
Cardinals analyst for Cardinals
good
TV, joining us as he does each and every week here on BK and Ferrario. I'm curious to see what they decide to do here. Do you guys think they make any kind of a move before the game today?
No.
I don't either.
Not today.
Not with them being in Minnesota. No.
I think after their off day, their next off day, I think they might.
I think when they head
They've got
home,
a while before an off day.
I think when they
next
head home,
Saturday is their next one.
And when they come home, by the way, on a Monday, what makes it a little easier is that's when your minor league affiliate is off.
Yep.
That's when I could see the move happening. I don't think they're doing it today before Minnesota.
I would keep an eye on the Memphis lineup this weekend. I will be curious to see who's getting the starts at third base for them. If it continues to be Blaze Jordan this weekend, I wonder if they're saying, you know what, we don't think he's a third baseman, but let's see what it looks like for a few more days. And if he's just fine over there and he's making all the plays that need to be made, maybe we can get by with that for a couple of days a week. You get a lefty on the mound, he gets opportunities out there. And we split those chances between he and Jose Fermin. And if a righty's on the mound, maybe we go to Torres, or maybe you split even some of those right-handed opportunities between Jordan and Torres as well. I don't know, but I think we're we're quickly approaching the time where a change is necessary for them at the third base spot. All right, coming up in about 10 minutes, we'll talk to Mike McKenna, former NHL goalie, joins us each and every week on behalf of Macadoodles. Got some big-time goalie conversations leading into or coming out of last night's game in the Stanley Cup final. I know Torts got real testy about being asked about his goalie, even though he's the first goalie ever in NHL history to give up, I think it's 4+ goals in each of the Stanley Cup final games.
How dare somebody ask if your goalie's got a .850 save percentage in the Stanley Cup final should get pulled when the other team did the same thing and won two in a row.
He would say that's the stupidest question I've heard.
And Tortorella would do that.
Yeah, he did do that last night. So we'll talk about it with Mike McKenna coming up in about 10 minutes. Ask Us Anything is next here on 101 ESPN. 314-399-9646. That is the Air Comfort Service text line for Ask Us Anything. If you guys have any questions, sports or otherwise, we'll get to them right now here on the Air Comfort Service text line. From the 314, have you guys seen what's going on with the Memphis Redbirds and their stadium deal? I've seen some of this floating out there over the last couple of days on Twitter. T-Bone, I know you very recently went to the Memphis Redbird Stadium and basically said, yeah, it could use some upgrades.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it's looking kind of rough. I don't know that they've really touched it up since it was built, which I think was the 90s, if I'm not mistaken. It could use a little bit of money to try and help kind of bring some more life to it, because when I say it doesn't look like it's been touched, I mean like literally everything. Like they could use some fresh paint that could be added to it. Some of the ballpark is just kind of old. It feels like a stadium that was built in the 90s. It could use a little bit of life into it.
This is how it goes. A lot of the time you see team wants upgrades. City doesn't want to pay for the upgrades. Team says, give us X number of dollars. City says, no, what about this? And like you get the negotiation back and forth. I wouldn't be overly concerned about this just yet. I give it like 6 months. And if you're still hearing this stuff at that point, maybe then it becomes a real conversation on, okay, what's the plan here? Where are things going to go? And I don't know what the Cardinals would do because they own the team now, right? Didn't they take ownership of it?
I don't know who owns the team, to be honest with you.
I can't recall exactly what the situation is. I think the stadium is different. I think that's a Memphis thing, but be curious to see where it goes. I wouldn't be overly concerned about it just yet. From the 618, do you guys think that the league will ever implement some kind of mechanism within the cap that would allow teams in states with no income tax a way to compete with the others? So basically, do you think that they'll punish the teams with no state income tax and make it a little different, more quote-unquote fair for the other teams? I don't think so, no.
I think somebody brought that up to either Bettman or Daly the last time they had a meeting or availability, and they basically said, like, yeah, but how are you going to do it? That's the problem. You have to get both sides to agree upon that, and that's just going to be a really difficult thing to do. So, no, I don't think so. Yeah,
I don't think they do it. I think it's just complicated because once you start to do that for them, then you've got to kind of look at, okay, well, how are we going to do this with everybody else? And the cap's just kind of nice and easy as it is right now, and I think that's why you just stick with it. And as we've pointed out in the past, it's a problem now. I don't know that it's always going to be a problem. If the Panthers go into a rebuild, people aren't going to care that there's no income tax there. They're not going to sign there. So I think that's the big driving force as well.
From Afton Soccer Guy, what's your confidence level in the U.S. men's national team to go far into the World Cup?
Low.
Very low.
I think they get to the round of 32.
Our USA pride came out right there, T-Bone.
USA, USA, USA.
Go Team Italy.
I just know what they are in soccer, man. Everybody always dreams about them being bigger than what they are, and it's just a reminder when they get to the World Cup, you're not going to compete with the best from South America. You're not going to compete with the best in Europe, and I don't know that U.S. soccer's ever going to get there. So I think they will get out of the group stage. They can probably win in the round of 32, maybe the round of 16, depending on the draw. They're not going any further than that, though. They're not going to be a team that gets to like the Final Four and wins in the Elite Eight round.
Every year I feel like when we get to the World Cup, I feel like people are talking about USA and could they do damage? And every year you're disappointed with because they lose to somebody that you're like, they lost to who? And then it kind of falls flat for you.
Who's your team?
My team to win it all? I really like France. They're the team that I kind of have pinpointed as the one that I think is going to end up winning this. They're probably number one for me because like some of these teams like Argentina, Messi's just getting up there in age. I don't think they can go on a run. Same with like Portugal. I think it's either France or Brazil would be another one I would circle.
I've got France.
I had Brazil. And I know nothing about soccer, so I'm a spectator this time of the year.
314-399-9646. That is the Air Comfort Service text line for Ask Us Anything. From Tim's offshore bookie. Alex, are you aware that Team Italy is not even in the World Cup this year?
I am not. How dare they? Did they not qualify? Were they that bad?
Two. Yep.
Yeah. And that's pretty pathetic for what was once a powerhouse, and this tournament's expanded. Yeah. They let in I think it's like 10 automatic, or not 10 automatic, but 10 qualifiers from Europe.
At least I have that first period that Team Italy led in hockey.
Yeah.
I think it was over Sweden, if I'm not mistaken.
From Tim's Toothless Bottom Boy, finish the sentence. The Blues would be making a huge mistake this offseason if they blank. Blues would be making a huge mistake this offseason if they blank.
Traded Robert Thomas.
I think that's like the only one that I would say.
I don't know what else would be a huge mistake.
The Blues would be making a huge mistake if they overpay for the number 2 pick. I would add that one in there as well.
That's what I was going to go with, especially after our conversation yesterday.
Yeah, because I'm okay for overpaying for a proven commodity. I'm not okay with trading for a unknown. Even though there might be the ceiling of that, I'm not overpaying to get up to that spot for that, because I said this on the Rebel Report today. You know, prospects are prospects. I have no freaking clue what those guys are. I don't care what you tell me their ceiling is. A lot of them flame out.
314-399-9646 is the Air Comfort Service text line from the 618. Guys, I need advice. I want to get back into golfing. Just picked up my old clubs from college. I'm 32 years old. I live in Alton, but my anxiety goes crazy on a busy golf course.
Well, first thing I would say is definitely pick it up if you want to get back into it. I mean, I picked it up 5 years ago with my dad, and I mean, I love doing that now. I would say don't go to a really popular golf course, because that's where you get a lot of people. Try and go to maybe a lower level golf course to where it's not as crowded, and try and pick a time where there's not a lot of people. But I mean, if you go with a couple of buddies who want to get in on it, and you go with a foursome that takes your time, nobody cares. Yeah. If somebody's like on your tail and you're stressed about it, just let them go in front of you. Just say, hey, you guys could play ahead. I'm taking my time. I'm not the greatest golfer, so go ahead and tee off in front of me. Most people could care less with that one. So, or just get paired with other people. But if you've got anxiety, I would say probably avoid that. Yeah. So go weekdays in the afternoon. Weekdays in the evenings, like right before it gets dark out. And then, you know, if you're going to go on a weekend, probably go later in the day would be my advice.
I was going to say, I don't know if there's one of these close to Alton, because I'm not familiar with the golf scene around there. Maybe just find if there's a 9-hole course, right? Rather than the 18, because that's where a lot of people go. Mm-hmm. Typically, those 9 holes are a little less stressful, there's a par 3 course that's by Tower T driving range, where, I mean, par 3s are, you know, rarely that big. And then somebody also brought up the good advice, go to a driving range first. Go there for a couple weeks and just hit, and then you can go to a golf course. But I would say the big thing is find buddies who want to do it with you, and then if there's 4 of you, nobody's going to care.
From Low Life Dad, guys, what about Curtis Mead as a trade option? Nationals third baseman, 25 years old, fits into the youth movement, and is currently having a good season. I don't know why the Nationals would trade him.
I was going to say, if he's having a good season, why are the Nationals getting rid of him?
Been really good this year. 10 home runs, 30 ribbies. I just don't see him as a real trade candidate, and has club control. So, I mean, if they were willing to deal him, sure, I could see you making a move for him. But also, they're probably going to ask you for a pretty significant price, and I'm not willing to pay a significant price for a guy that I have no idea if this is going to be sustainable for him or not.
Yeah. I don't see them moving him because of the control that you talked about, and the fact that I think they view him as a guy that's going to be a big driving force into what they are going to be out of this rebuild or whatever they're doing there in Washington.
He's also probably not a long-term third baseman. Probably fits more as a first base DH type. So from that perspective, like, he's terrible on the bases. He's a really bad defender. And I don't know if that fits in with what the Cardinals are doing either. If that's the case, I think they would just try going with somebody like a Blaze Jordan instead. Right-hander, slow, not a great defender. At that point, just go with the guy that's internal. Don't spend resources on a similar type of profile to what you already have internally. That would be the way that I would view it, personally.
Yeah, I'm with you there.
314-399-9646. That is the Air Comfort Service text line. Last one here from the 314. Guys, go get Zach Neto. Plays with the Angels. They're bound to make a bad decision. Doesn't he also have club control?
I don't know where he's at club control-wise. I thought he wasn't having a good year, though. Maybe I'm mistaken. The Angels suck. I don't watch them typically. He'd be interesting.
He's been pretty good.
Has he been? But He's more of a shortstop, not a third baseman, right?
Yeah, he strikes out a ton.
That's okay.
But he's been good overall. He's been productive for them this season. Primarily plays short. Yeah, I mean, if they're willing to move him,
How much control's he got?
Interested. I'd have to check out exactly how much control he has. But yeah, he's played every game this year at third base. Or, at shortstop,
I'm here for it.
So
Zach Neto is a fun player. But I think he's got decent control, which means they would be asking for the world. But maybe you could rob them. I mean, knowing the Angels, they'll be buyers at the deadline, not sellers, and then they'll do a waiver drop-off like they've normally done.
He's not even ARB eligible until next year. Again, guys,
I get him.
He's a shortstop, not ARB eligible until next season. That's just not the kind of guy that gets traded at a trade deadline. Maybe in the offseason, but at a trade deadline, there's just It's very rare that that kind of player gets dealt because it's going to require, like if you want Zach Neto, you're talking about trading some of your top prospects. That's the kind of thing that you'd have to be willing to put into, like especially as a shortstop. Like Rainiel Rodriguez has to be in the conversation.
Yep.
Liam Doyle, Tanner Franklin, like those names that you want no part of dealing, that's the kind of return that they'd be asking for in that scenario. All right, coming up next, Mike McKenna, former NHL goalie. We're going to talk NHL Stanley Cup final with him next year on 101 ESPN. Alongside Alex and T-Bone, I'm BK. We are going to be joined momentarily by Mike McKenna, the former NHL goalie. He joins us each and every Friday on behalf of the fine folks over at Macadoodles. Alex, I'll give you your proper credit. You were 100% correct about this year's postseason. 100% correct.
I hope I am with Hurricanes in 6, but it might go 7.
You said all along, Carolina's going to do it this year. This team's different. The path to get there is different than it has been in the past. The Eastern Conference is wide open. It's them and then everybody else. You were right about that. You then said going into the Stanley Cup final, they're going to beat Vegas. Vegas isn't as good as what this team is. And they flat out have been better than Vegas, basically at every turn, outside of their goalie, who has since been benched, and now they've gone to a guy that's giving them a real chance against the Vegas Golden Knights. How'd they do it? What changed this year?
I mean, to me, the decision to change goal, I think, is a big reason why, because you go to a guy who hasn't played in a long time, and I think Vegas had to adjust to that, and they weren't able to. And to me, how Carolina did it is they got back to the style that they play. Now, it's not stingy defensively because their goaltending hasn't really been good, but, like, look at how last night's game played out. I mean, they just out-muscled Vegas in every scenario to get the puck and retrieve the puck. And I think Vegas was winning early on with the style that they won throughout the postseason. And then I think Carolina got away from how they wanted to play in game 1. And then once game 2 hit, they finally kind of got back to it. So out-muscling them, presence in front of the net, very strategic in how they hold on to the puck and cause turnovers and capitalize. And that has been the recipe for success. But I think the decision to change to Bussy was a massive decision that might turn out to pay out for them going into game 6.
Yeah, this is the closest team that I think we've seen to the Stanley Cup Finals team that the Blues had.
Yeah.
In 2019, that team did not have superstars on it in the traditional sense. And lately you've seen whether it's Tampa, Colorado, Vegas, Florida, they're all built quite differently than the Blues were. This is a true pack mentality team. They have 0 players on their roster this year that had more than 80 points. Their goaltending this season, none of them had a save percentage on the year above 900. It's a weird construction of a roster to win a final that, relative to what we've seen for most of the last decade, but it's remarkably impressive.
And Brindamore has outcoached John Tortorella for the last 3 games, and that's been the other factor, which very similar to how Berube was in that playoff run.
All right, alongside Alex and T-Bone, I'm BK. Happy to go out to the Kiley and Thompson hotline. We continue our conversation with the former NHL goalie Mike McKenna joining us on behalf of Macadoodles. Mike, we were talking a little bit about the Stanley Cup final. Carolina makes the decision a couple of games ago to switch their goalies, and it's paid off in a big way. They're now up 3-2 in this series, got a chance to win it in 6. What did you make of the decision to switch goalies, and how has it worked for them, in your opinion?
Goaltending matters here. I didn't think the Carolina Hurricanes were going to win with Freddie Anderson playing goalie for them, and I don't dislike Freddie Anderson, but he's always either hurt or not performed, and it hasn't gotten it done. And when you looked at the first game and 2 of the series there before he ended up being pulled, he's deep in his net. He's kind of lackadaisical. He's very conservative in how he plays. Brandon Bussy's the absolute opposite of that. You know, he's a little out of control at times, but he's just so dynamic. And he wants the puck so bad. And I really think that this isn't just that Bussy's made some saves. It's not like he's seen a ton of rubber. He's made some big saves, but I really do believe that a team can take on the energy of the goaltender that plays behind them. And Freddie doesn't have that energy. He just doesn't. And you can say what you want about Carter Hart's performance and allowing 4 goals. Carter Hart has that it factor too. Like there's an energy to his game that you can feel. So I think Bussy has definitely made a difference for his club. I love how he closed out the game last night. But you know, hearing you guys talking before we came on, there is a lot more to this. I mean, Ron Brindamore has. Look at the matchups in the D zone and off the faceoffs and what he's putting on the ice. He's got his best players out at the right time. Obviously having home ice advantage, but I think he's really taken it to John Tortorella and the Knights, and the Knights look like the team in the last 2 games at least that limped into the playoffs before they made the coaching change to Tortorella.
Well, and they lost William Karlsson last night, which is going to be a massive blow to their depth. And, I mean, Brindamore made a decision last night. I think it was the second period that paid off is when he flipped Jarvis and Martinook, because then that line went off and you saw both sides kind of have the success. But on the flip side of that, Mike, I mean, I agree with you. Like Carter Hart throughout the postseason was coming up with big saves at the right moments. I kind of credited into the Western Conference final of what Grant Fuhr was like, to where it's like, man, he may give up a couple of goals, but he'll make the biggest save that you need them to make at the right time. I don't feel that way in the Stanley Cup final, and I don't know your thought on it. I feel like it's a mistake by Tortorella not going to Adin Hill for Game 6.
I disagree with that because Carter Hart's a better goalie than Adin Hill. But I don't disagree with what you're saying, okay? So I would not make the switch. I would stay with Carter Hart. Part of it with Hill is he just hasn't played.
Yeah, not since April.
It's just so hard to step in. And if you're going to do it on Game 6, that's not it. Now, when Brandon Bussey went in, second game of the series, like different animal, okay? And he had played pretty close coming up to it. I do think, and Adin Hill didn't have a great season either. I know he won a cup before, but he didn't have a great season. I do agree with you, though, that with Hart, he can be a little bit of a tactician at times. Like he's a modern-day Carey Price in a lot of ways. That's who he modeled his game after. But Carey Price would still pull these crazy saves out of the hat every once in a while. And not that Hart hasn't done it, but he needs a statement game at some point. He needs it in Game 6 because in Game 5, what we saw was the top players on Carolina showed up to play. Aho scores. Svechnikov gets 2. Ehlers has 3 assists. Like, Stankoven was off the sheet. They needed their biggest players to step up, and they did, and they didn't get Hart to make that save. But I got to tell you, that goal by Sebastian Aho that went off his back foot directly onto his blade, right under the bar while rolling, guys, that's one of the most skilled goals I have ever seen in my life.
Yeah.
Out of your seat, jumping up. If you like hockey, there's no way Aho even believes he did that. He's on the bench and his heart's going a million miles an hour because he can't believe he pulled that off in the Stanley Cup Finals in a critical moment, and he buried. It was unbelievable to see.
Mike McKenna is our guest here on 101. Excuse me.
It's a little emotional,
ESPN.
Mike. He really thought Vegas was going to win it. He thought Vegas was going to win it. They're not going to win it. It's emotional time.
It's been hard for me, but I'll find a way to overcome. Mike, why is it different this time with Carolina? We've seen them be a great regular season team for years. I mean, you go back to the first year of Rod Brind'Amour in Carolina. Since then, they've been a 600-plus points percentage team basically every single season. And finally, it appears at least, they're going to be able to get over the hump. So why? What changed this time around? What's been different?
I think they're incrementally better. I still do think that, if you were building the perfect team for the Carolina Hurricanes, you'd still need a premier marquee player, I think. And when Aho and Svechnikov aren't those players, it's a big difference for the team. I do think they're playing the same hard way. I do think they've backed off a little bit. I didn't see them pinch as often. They haven't given up as many odd man rushes in the past couple games as they did previously, so that's been an adjustment by Rod Brind'Amour and his crew. But what I really like about the Carolina Hurricanes this season especially is that I think it's maybe the best version of defense that we've seen them in terms of who's on the blue line. And when you look at the minutes throughout the series, they really don't have a top 2 pairings and a bottom pairing. All their D are playing. Their D are all somewhere between 15, 24 minutes a game. K'Andre Miller has been phenomenal. We never expected that. Shane Gostisbehere, guys, 2-3 years ago with Arizona, he was almost out of the league. And he's been incredibly valuable for that team. Sean Walker, amazing pickup from the LA Kings. So I think, undercover, they have better defenders than we realize from a skill level. It's just that when Brind'Amour kind of reins them in and gets everybody to stop being so hyper-aggressive like the Canes had been previously, neutral zone, in their own D zone chasing pucks, they've looked better. It still makes me nervous that they're man-to-man. You guys know I don't like that style of defense. But when they're on their game, they do have the personnel to shut down.
Mike, the guy that I just continue to be in awe when I watch him play this series is Jordan Staal. I mean, he's 36 years old. It seems like he doesn't age. He's still a presence. I think it was after Game 3, Tortorella said, we don't know how to handle Staal in front of the net. And since then, he has continued to score. I mean, this is a guy that has been around for a long time, but still finds a way to make the biggest impacts. And I feel like that's the identity of this Hurricanes team.
He is. He's the heartbeat of it now, which is kind of a really cool thing to see because his older brother Eric was the heartbeat of the team for a long time, and that was after he took over from Rod Brind'Amour. So there's a lineage to this club. And the Stahl family has been part of Carolina now forever. And there's pedigree there as well, you know. Jordan Stahl has won Stanley Cups. He's won with the Pittsburgh Penguins. He knows what it's like. He scored 5 goals in the first 5 games of the Stanley Cup Finals. And we're talking about Rocket Richard in the mix here, Jean Beliveau, like old names that, unless you're a hockey historian and crazy about it in the city, you probably don't know. He's doing some pretty unbelievable things. But he does have a presence that creates a lot of space for those around him. And having a guy like that in front of the net, it lets Aho and Stankoven and Jarvis roll around a little bit more. I'm impressed with not just his leadership, what he does in the faceoff circle, what he does in front of the net for a guy who at this stage doesn't skate great. He's not that fast. You don't notice him with the puck a whole lot. The guy just gets it done, and it's experience, man. It's fun to watch.
It's a hard area to say to go out and find, but is that something that this Blues team is lacking, that big body presence that creates space for their guys at the center position?
I don't think it's actually the centerman's job very often. It's kind of whoever you put in front of the net, especially if you're dealing with power play or end of a game situation. With the Blues lineup, they don't have it, but when have they last even had it? You know, even on the 2019 run, I think you could look at, you know, Braden Shen kind of had that. I think Alexander Steen was just an absolute nightmare to play against. I've got some funny stories about him actually on the ice, and he just was awful to play against. And that's the biggest compliment you can get. The closest thing the Blues have to it is Jake Neighbors right now, and I don't think that his physical size really commands that respect in front. So is it a missing link for the Blues? Yes, it's something that they don't have as a weapon. Is it a necessity? Maybe not, but I think you would really like to see it if you think the Blues are going to have a chance to contend for a Stanley Cup again.
He's Mike McKenna, the former NHL goalie, joins us each and every Friday on behalf of Macadoodles, and that's what we need to ask you about next, Mike. What can the fine folks that are listening to the show right now expect when they walk through the doors over at Macadoodles this weekend?
Busch Light Lime has hit the shelves, fellas. We've got Busch Light Lime. Unfortunately, Busch Light Apple's done for the season. So Busch Light Lime is here. Get ready for the summer. We're running neutral 12-pack vodka cocktails. Those are at $18.97. You won't see that price the rest of the year. Lucky One 4-packs are 2 for $16. That's $2 under what you would spend on an 8-pack. So we've got great deals in all those poolside canned cocktails here at Macadoodles. We are just north of the Page Extension at Bryan and Feisey Road. We also have some Penelope that's going to hit the shelves today when it arrives. We have word that Riviera will be in the building again for all you bourbon hunters out there, all you taters. Now, I love you taters, but you don't like to hear that and be called a tater. I love you taters out there. So we got some Penelope. We got all the other stuff. We got some pickle wine even right now on sale. We got it open to sample right now. So you want a little sweet wine with a little bit of pickle on it, we got it here at Macadoodles.
Mike, appreciate the time as always, man. Enjoy yourself this weekend. We'll talk with you again next week.
Anytime, fellas. Enjoy the finals, everybody.
You got it. You do the same. That's Mike McKenna joining us here on 101 ESPN. Appreciate his time as always. By the way, you can hear the Stanley Cup final right here on 101 ESPN. The next game will be played on Sunday, and pregame coverage starts on 101 ESPN at 6:30. Alongside Alex and T-Bone, I'm BK. Coming up next, want to get back to baseball. The Blue Jays and the Red Sox were teams that last year, it appeared, were on the ascent. This is going to be the start of their next era of baseball. Both of them have fallen flat this year. Is there anything that we can learn from their rubber band effect seasons? We'll talk about that next year on 101 ESPN. Alongside Alex and T-Bone, I'm BK. We're talking about this a little bit on the off the air. Went to Yankee Stadium over the weekend. Really cool experience. I enjoyed going to the game. Got to see Yankees Red Sox, which was cool. People were shouting "Bleep the Red Sox" as we were walking into the stadium. So, it was a fun time.
It's a fun thing.
Honestly, I got to tell you, I think that it is far inferior as a stadium to Busch Stadium. I would rather go to Busch Stadium to enjoy a game than going to Yankee Stadium. The getting off the subway and being in the Bronx and being surrounded by Yankees fans. There's a couple of massive bars right down the street from it. That part was cool. The pregame stuff was cool. And then getting on the subway as everybody's celebrating the win afterward, that was cool as well. But the actual stadium itself, I don't know, man. If you've got an opportunity to go see a Cardinals game somewhere, that would not necessarily be one that ranks high on my list of gotta do it stadiums. There are a lot of other stadiums that I would prefer to go to than Yankee Stadium.
Yeah, I've never been to it, but just from seeing it, from watching it on television, there doesn't seem to be anything unique about it. And I would say that about St. Louis. I don't think there's anything really unique about the stadium outside of
I think the skyline's unique.
Skyline.
Yeah, but I don't think there's anything unique about the stadium itself when you're in there, right? When I've been to some others, I've been to the Astro Stadium, right? You've got the train, you've got the big wall out there and left. There used to be the hill in center field before we got rid of fun.
Wasn't fun for the center fielders.
Think about Baltimore, they had the big wall out there in right field, and they've got a cool area back behind there.
Honestly, I think the Budweiser Terrace area is genuinely one of the unique aspects of Busch Stadium. It's one of the few because there isn't a whole lot else. But I think a lot of stadiums now going to that standing room only type of an area, and what you're able to do with that is what makes some of them unique nowadays.
Did I ever tell you the story about the White Sox one? Because the White Sox kind of have it. Yeah, so they have what is supposed to be kind of the same thing. Now, the Cardinals is kind of buried way up there in the right field corner, but theirs is a nice, big, large area. So I go walking around the White Sox stadium last year around this time, and I see all these signs for theirs was Blue Moon, sponsored by Blue Moon. So it was the Blue Moon Landing. I'm it's going to be just like it. I mean, it could have been about the size of this room, and that was it. And it had 2 rows blocked out for. I was like, this is the most sad and pitiful thing I've ever seen.
And we went to Coors, and they have their standing room only area, but it's this huge bar area over the entire upper deck. It's cool. It's packed. You cannot walk around when you go up there. At least we went on a Friday night, so that could have certainly played into it. But it was almost like a club type of an atmosphere. So each team does something a little different with it. But yeah, Yankee Stadium, cool. Glad I went. Glad I got to experience it. Certainly not in my top list of stadiums. PNC still my favorite park that I've been to. That would rank number 1 for me, Pittsburgh, among the 5 I think that I've been to so far. All right, so the Cardinals, they're 37-29. They're 1 game better right now than they were at this point a year ago. So it's a similar spot to what they were last year, but I think we all agree it feels quite different, right? We feel like the team is in a better place today than they were at this exact same time last year, despite the record being quite similar. I would say at this point last year, Red Sox and Blue Jays fans were feeling kind of similar to what we are right now, where it's okay, it's finally happening. For the Blue Jays, they had a guy who took the step where Vlad Guerrero Jr. playing like an MVP candidate. It's all come together. It's not just he's hitting for average now. Okay, the power is starting to follow. And for the Red Sox, okay, this young core that we've heard so much about, it's finally arriving at the big league level. And they had a guy in Roman Anthony who everybody was extremely excited about. And he came up and immediately played at an all-star caliber level. They both end up being legit playoff teams, and we know what the story was with the Blue Jays, where they ultimately get to the World Series and are 90 feet away from giving the Dodgers everything they could handle. And now you look at where they're at this season. The Red Sox are one of the worst teams in Major League Baseball. They're 27-39. The Blue Jays are 3 games below 500 and 9 games out of first place in the AL East. Both of them feel like they're having a rubber band effect kind of a season where they went up and now they're coming back down. If you're the Cardinals, are there any lessons to be learned from what happened with the Blue Jays and what happened with the Red Sox and where they currently stand in 2026?
I told you my thought on it, and I mean, I totally see your side of it to where he didn't have the impact. I mean, both of them made big changes in the offseason to try and better their team to where, Toronto didn't pay Bo Bichette the money and tried to replace that with a couple of other pieces, and Boston tried to go out and upgrade multiple areas, and they got Sonny Gray and Wilson Contreras. To me, it's the same thing I said about the New York Mets. I mean, you moved on from Pete Alonso and tried to replace it with Bo Bichette and multiple other pieces to become a defensive-minded team. Now, I don't think the Blue Jays or the Red Sox tried to change their identity like the Mets did, but, man, when you've got something that's working, I don't know if change makes a lot of sense when you're opening up your window, and I think both sides made some sweeping changes to their roster. So that would be my biggest thing with kind of what those teams did. Like, sometimes when you make those changes to try and better your team to go out there and win, it can have opposite effects towards your roster like both have this season.
Yeah, I mean, for the Blue Jays, I don't know what to make of them. Like, my only thing with them is, hey, man, Vlad's not Vlad. Mm-hmm. Like, that would be my thing, and that is, I don't think you can prepare for that as an organization, right? Like, if you look at it, Vlad Guerrero has fewer home runs than Pedro Paz. All right, now let that sink in for a moment. Vlad Guerrero, who is a MVP candidate, has fewer home runs than Pedro Paz and has a higher on-base than slugging percentage this year. You know what your build is then? It's bleeped. If Vlad doesn't get going, they're not going to be able to do anything. And I don't know that there's a lesson to learn from that. Outside of when your superstar sucks, your team sucks.
Don't lose your superstar.
For the Red Sox, I don't know what to make of them either, because like the pitching's been fine for them. The offense just isn't hitting, and it's really just been kind of the guys that are the Burlesons of the world, the Herreras of the world, which is, man, it can just disappear at any moment for guys. And I think it is just a reminder of just how hard it is to build in baseball. And for me, I don't know so much that it is what do you do for the future. It is you should capitalize on the moment that you have, right? I think that's the lesson to learn from the Blue Jays and from the Red Sox. And to the credit of the Blue Jays, they capitalized on that moment last year, right? They get all the way to the World Series. They were that close to being able to take down that juggernaut of the LA Dodgers. I think there is no way to really come up with a consensus, clear cut. Obviously, we're going to be able to build this thing out for a couple of years. It is just a reminder, when things click for you in a season, you need to take advantage of it. And for the Red Sox, they didn't. For the Blue Jays, they just weren't able to get just that one game over the top.
I think that's it. I think it is, hey, man, this thing can come together really quickly, and then it can fall apart really quickly as well. Every bit as quick as you were able to build it, it can fall. And for the Red Sox, this feels kind of similar to what happened with the Orioles, where the Orioles arrive and it's like, oh my God, look at this young core. They've got so many different pieces. They're going to be able to build around all these guys. It's all of these really high level draft picks, prospects, pedigree everywhere. And they were never able to really get the pitching side of things developed the way that they wanted to. And they just hoarded all of this talent. And ultimately, they've just got a lot of guys. There's not really a superstar that's emerged, and that first year was kind of as good as it got. Never really took off from there. The progress was not linear. It was whew, and then right back down. And the Red Sox feel like they're kind of similar in that regard, where last year it felt like a lot of guys arrived, and now you look at it, you're like, okay, well, wait, I kind of anticipated all of them taking a step forward, and instead most of it has either stagnated or it's come back to earth a bit. And when you have that kind of a situation, this is what you get. You're just kind of stuck. And the Blue Jays, to me, are a little different. Most of their guys were kind of in their prime, like 25 to 30 age range. So they were supposed to be really good, and ultimately they were. But they capitalized on it. They had that opportunity. They ended up going on a run in the postseason, and they went for it. And this year, this is kind of what happens. Sometimes after that kind of a season, you're not the same team the following year. So if I'm the Cardinals, the lesson to be learned here is just don't take it for granted that this is just going to be the start of a new era of Cardinals baseball. I'm not trying to like pee in anybody's Cheerios today or anything, but this could be as good as it gets for the next couple of years. Next year might be worse. And you might end up in a situation where, hey, Jordan Walker, this is the best that it's going to be for a little while. And next year, he might have a season kind of similar to what we're seeing right now out of Vlad Guerrero Jr. That doesn't mean he's bad suddenly, but it means that, hey, everybody has a down year. Last year, we saw this with Arizona. Arizona was counting on, God, what's his name? Corbin Carroll to be a superstar. And for the first half of the season, he was terrible. Yeah. He figured it out eventually. That guy's a stud. He's fine. Like it was never going to be a thing where He's just suddenly not a good baseball player anymore. This year he's got a 920 OPS, back to being an MVP candidate. But for a year, he couldn't figure it out at the plate, and it took a little while. So that would be my lesson to be learned here is don't take this for granted. You've got a real chance here. Try to go for it a little bit.
Yeah, and that's why when we have the conversations about the deadline, I say if you're in it, you're not selling. Because this could be the best run, right? I mean, it could be, you mentioned Baltimore. Now, I don't think you're as good as Baltimore was that year that they went on that run, because I think they won the AL East, if I remember correctly. But they thought, all right, 92 wins, yeah, it's just the beginning of it. And look at them since. To your point, they never developed the pitching. They held on to all their prospects, and now they're just kind of swimming upstream. And they don't know if they're going to be a team that can constantly get to the playoffs. And they've wasted the prime of a true stud in Henderson. Henderson, they've only been in the playoffs once with him, I think, at shortstop. Maybe twice. I can't remember if they got in a second time or not. But that would be my point with you've got this season from Jordan Walker. Maybe this is the beginning of year in, year out. This is an MVP candidate. There's very few guys that actually do that for their career, but there are a lot of guys that have that 1 year spurt where, hey, this guy's an MVP candidate, and then they go back to being about 20% to 10% above league average, which to BK's point, good player. But as you're seeing with the Cardinals, when you insert an MVP into your lineup, it changes the complexion of the team completely.
He's T-Bone. That's Alex. I'm BK. Coming up next, is there a way for the Blues to emulate what the Hurricanes have built? We'll talk about it next here on 101 ESPN. It is time to unlock your inner champion, and the place to do so is with my friends over at Victory Men's Health. If you haven't done so yet, what are you waiting for? It's time to check them out online at victorymenshealth.com. They have 4 great locations across the St. Louis area, and they are ready to help you regain your vitality. Book that first appointment online. Again, victorymenshealth.com. Put in your name, email, phone number. Tell them BK with 101 ESPN sent you, and then you'll be able to get that first visit. At that visit, you'll have a consultation with a licensed medical provider. They're going to check out where all of your different levels are at, and that includes your testosterone levels. They'll find out what exactly your goal is. What does it mean for you to unlock your inner champion? It's different for everybody. For me, I meant going in there and telling them, hey, I'm trying to have a little bit more energy around the house. I feel like I'm a little more groggy. I'm not getting the same amount out of my workouts as I once did. And they were able to find out, all right, here's where your levels are at. Here is exactly what we think is the best plan for you. They helped me unlock my inner champion. They can do the same thing for you, whether that's low testosterone, weight loss goals, sexual health, red light therapy programs. It's all available for you today at Victory Men's Health. Book that first appointment online today. Unlock your inner champion at victorymenshealth.com.
Tanner Hendrickson here with the Sports Center update brought to you by Saliga Heating and Cooling. Cardinals fell to the Mets yesterday 5-4, but they take 2 of 3 from New York. And tonight they're off to Minnesota, where they'll start a 3-game set with the Minnesota Twins. 7:10 will be first pitch. Kyle Leahy on the mound for St. Louis. Joe Ryan will be getting the start for the Minnesota Twins. The Sports Center update was brought to you by Saliga Heating and Cooling, a Daikin heating and air conditioning dealer.
The Carolina Hurricanes had 2 30-goal scorers this year. They only had 4 guys with 25 or more goals. They had 1 player with at least 75 points. They also didn't have a single regular season goalie with a save percentage above 500, and they're about to win the Stanley Cup. Alongside Alex and T-Bone, I'm BK. They're a riddle I don't understand how to solve. Because when I watch them, I'm like, this team is an absolute buzzsaw. I don't know how anybody scores against them, and I don't know how they don't score 12 goals a game. It's crazy to watch. They fly all across the ice. And then you look at the overall numbers, 2nd in the league in goals, 6th in goals allowed, top 5 in power play percentage, right outside the top 10 in penalty kill, 2nd in shots per game, 1st in shots allowed per game. So all of that you look at and say to yourself, yeah, well, that's an elite team. How could they not be one of the top contenders for the Stanley Cup? And then I look at them individually and I'm like, yeah, because this. I don't really see it. I don't see a superstar in this mix. They've got a lot of really good players, don't get me wrong, but no superstars. The goaltending is legit questionable. And this is not the kind of team that you typically would expect to win the Stanley Cup, especially over the last 5+ years. So, Alex, what can other teams do to follow this formula? Is there a way to do it, or are they the outlier? And if you try to follow what they're doing, you're just going to be a worse version of them, and you'll never actually be able to catch it.
Yeah, I don't think they're a team that you can follow, because you got to have a coach with the strategy that works and also the entire team buys into. And like as we've seen in the NHL, that doesn't fly more times than not. But like you look at the construction of the Hurricanes, yeah, they don't have a superstar on their team, but you know what they have? They're 3 lines deep, to where their third line could probably play with the top line from most teams. And what Mike said is the other factor into this. They don't have a bad defenseman on their team. Every one of their defensemen you're comfortable with if they play 20-plus minutes a night. They all play the same style where they're offensive-minded. There's not a stay-at-home defenseman on that team. I mean, the worst probably offensive defenseman on that team is Sean Walker. And Sean Walker's still a guy that will give you 30-plus points. So your goaltending doesn't have to be great. Your offense doesn't have to have a 40 or 50-goal scorer. But when I've got 3 lines that I feel comfortable in any situation playing against any line, whether it's Jack Eichel or Mark Stone on the ice, I'm comfortable if Jordan Staal matches up with them, Logan Stankoven or Sebastian Aho, and my defenseman, I'm never going to be in a spot where I feel like I'm outplayed by the other team, because my 6 defensemen work the same.
Who is the most important person for the Carolina Hurricanes' success?
Rod Brindamore.
I agree with that. Mm-hmm. When was the last time you could say that about a coach in the NHL?
John Cooper, I can make an argument for how many injuries that team has dealt with over time, and he continues to find ways to win. But there's still superstars on that team.
When was the last time that you could say that about a Stanley Cup winning team?
Berube.
You thought he was more important than Ryan O'Reilly?
No, Binnington was probably the most important on that team. I thought Berube was very important in that playoff run, because that man made decisions that paid off every single series that they played in. But Binnington was still more important.
In the long term, he was able to get that team to buy into stuff, right? Like moving Steen down to the
hand pass
line.
moment, like just moving past that immediately.
I mean, like Sammy Blais going into a lineup and, taking Vince Dunn out and playing Carl Gunnarsson. Like, he made decisions that was like, what are you doing? And then it paid off. The last coach to do it to where, like, he was the sole, probably Barry Trotz with Washington.
They had Ovechkin.
I know, but Ovechkin was viewed as a guy that didn't play in the playoffs until Barry Trotz stepped in. And the story of that team is Barry Trotz got Alex Ovechkin to buy in.
Yeah.
And I mean, the only reason that they won that cup is because people said, well, Barry Trotz was the head coach of that team. And when they left, they never could get back to it.
The thing that I think is different with this scenario, the system is what makes it all work, right? Yep. Like the style of play, when you watch a Carolina Hurricanes game, it is different than you watch any other team in the NHL. They are almost doing their own thing. It's like when you used to watch the Golden State Warriors where you're like, yeah, that's different. That's a different style of play than what everybody else in the NBA is doing. Or back in the day, T-Bone, I don't know if you recall this, but like the 7 seconds or less Suns,
don't remember.
Those teams that were just flying up and down the court, it was a different sport almost than what everybody else was doing. And so like their system, they had stars in it, don't get me wrong. Steve Nash was unbelievable, but their system is kind of what made them unique. And that's what makes Carolina unique. I guess my question would be like, why can't other teams play this way, Alex?
Because you have to have everybody on that roster playing the one style and buying into it. And that's not an easy thing to do for 82 games. But it's just as much as it's Rod Brindamore, it's Jordan Staal that I mentioned to Mike there. And like, I go back to the Boston Bruins when Jim Montgomery was there and, you know, they set the record for the most points in the season. You know, I remember Jim talking about how he said, this is the easiest gig. I don't have to do much because these guys lead the locker room themselves. And you had Bergeron, Krejci, Marchand, Pasternak. Like, everybody did what they needed to do. And we had Backus tell us this story. Yeah. Boston had a principle that if you weren't on the same bus as everybody else, then you can get out. And they did that. And so why does it work with Carolina? Because they got Jake Gensel at the trade deadline. He came in and played wonderfully, and everyone was like, well, you got to resign this guy. And they said, no, we don't need to. They traded for Mikko Rantanen. It didn't work out. And they said, no, we're good with this. And then they go out there and they bring in Nikolai Ehlers, who was viewed in Winnipeg as a bust of a player, as a guy that couldn't score in the playoffs, and you always lost because he never showed up. And always hurt. And what does he do? Well, he comes in and he scores 26 goals in the regular season as one of their better players in the playoffs.
And that move, by the way, with Rantanen, they were able to get Stankoven because of that too.
Well, and Hall, right? I think Hall was part of that as a 3-team deal.
Hall was. I thought Hall was a signing, if I'm not mistaken.
I think he was. If I'm not mistaken,
Hall
I think
wasn't
he was
with
involved.
Dallas or Colorado, though.
Well, no, but I think the Blackhawks were involved in that as a 3-team trade.
Maybe you might be right on that one. But regardless, that's the other thing too. Like their GM Tulsky that came in, he's a very analytics-driven general manager, and he makes decisions based off of what he believes will drive the team. So there's a lot of factors that go into this, but why can't other teams do what they're doing? Again, it's because you have to have 12 guys, 6 defensemen, all buying into what the coach is selling you on, and every single night you're willing to play that way. That's how you win 53 games. Ken Hitchcock had that with the Blues from 2013 up until 2017, I think. It was Backus was the voice of Ken Hitchcock, and everybody that stepped into that locker room played the style. And guess what? If you don't, he's probably going to punch your lights out at a practice.
T-Bone's right, by the way. Taylor Hall in that deal as part of a 3-team trade with Mikko Rantanen, in which the Blackhawks retained part of the salary for Mikko Rantanen. So they were also able to get Taylor Hall in that deal. And I think this might be part of the lesson as well is we don't think of them as a team that has superstars. They don't. Like right now on their roster, they've got very good hockey players. This is not to suggest otherwise, but they don't have a Matthew Tkachuk. They don't have a Connor McDavid. They don't have a Leon Draisaitl. That's not the way they've been built. They have made, though, moves to go get star-level talent. They went and made a trade to be able to bring in somebody like a Jake Gensel, and they went and got Mikko Rantanen and gave up a lot to get him. And then when they were able to move him again, they made a move that, you know, filled out the roster the way that ultimately they needed.
It's not just a move. That's a creative move, right? I mean, 3 teams, you're moving salary through Chicago.
And you got rid of him because you knew he didn't work into your system and it wasn't going to work.
And they made the aggressive move early to go get him from Colorado to be able to have the amount of time remaining to where, all right, we'll get a month of this, see if he likes it here. And if he doesn't, if he decides I'm not re-signing, well, then we still have some runway to be able to move him again.
And that's credit to Tulsky, who makes those decisions and makes them on the fly, and you're aggressive with it. But 2, it goes to show you what we talked about with Curbs last week. You may not be a destination for free agents, which means you've got to be a destination via trade, which means you've got to be aggressive at the right time when you see a piece that works well for you. But you also have to have the right system and the right coach in place that makes everything run. And somebody said, well, it also goes to show you management has to draft well and bring in the guys that fit the system. Yeah, and it's why I actually feel good about where the Blues are at, because look at the guys that Feltrin's been drafting. All of these guys are who we're talking about as core pieces of the team, and they seem to mesh well with what the team is wanting to do. So Yeah, Carolina does a lot of things right, and it's why they always seem to be a team you're talking about in the playoffs. Their biggest hiccup, though, has been getting over those superstar-led teams like Florida, and this is the season that they're going to pay off with it.
Somebody else on the text line said, yeah, guys, it also helps that Jacob Slavin has a $6.5 million cap hit each and every year. Yeah, that doesn't hurt.
Yeah, you got to get guys that are willing to play for less.
And sign them early, sign them on a deal that is team-friendly, and then the way that they're building is kind of similar to the way that the Blues traditionally have built.
I was going to say, like, Jacob Slavin could be your Philip Broberg.
Sure.
To where you got that guy locked up long term, and he may pay out to be one of the better defensemen in the league.
And a few years from now, it might be similar in terms of the cap hit relative to the other top guys that they're getting. And Robert Thomas is like your Sebastian Aho, right? Yeah. Aho's making 9.5. Ehlers is making 8.5 right now. Maybe that's your version of Dylan Holloway. You know, like you could have some of these types of pieces. You just have to keep filling it out.
Yep.
The Hurricanes said, keep going, keep going, keep going. And they keep adding to this core. And they've got a ton of players that are in that $5 to $8.5 million range. That's the way that, again, the Blues have traditionally liked to build. You have not seen that succeed a whole lot in the last 10 years in the NHL. The Blues did it, and the Carolina Hurricanes appear to be on the verge of doing the same thing. Coming up next, I've got a story from my time in New York. This might be worse than me not seeing Albert Pujols' 700th home run while I was in L.A. We'll talk about it next year on 101 ESPN. Alongside Alex and T-Bone, I'm BK. So you guys know I've had my fair share of moments where not a great situation for your boy. I'm in LA. Albert is on the verge of hitting 700. We are out there for a wedding. It's me, Kara, and a bunch of her friends and all of the guys that they're with, right? So we're going out to dinner that night, and most of the guys are from St. Louis, and so we all say, like, should we go to the Cardinals game? Like, it's Cards-Dodgers.
Should we?
Albert's right there. Like,
It's only two home runs.
And somebody said he can't hit 2 home runs in one game.
We decided not to go.
That was BK that said that?
Yeah.
We're like 5 minutes away from the stadium. We're all watching the Cardinals game on the phone while we're at this pretty nice dinner.
As one would do.
And Albert obviously gets to 700
He's
that
like,
night.
guys, he's not going to do
Didn't
2.
you also...
We'll go tomorrow.
Weren't you parking the car when he hit his first home run back in St. Louis?
Indeed, yeah. So at Busch Stadium, we went to Mayo Ketchup, got some dinner beforehand. It was Cards versus Royals. It was Albert's return in a Cardinals uniform to Busch Stadium. We're parking the car. We hear the roar of the crowd. I turn up the radio, and Albert has just hit his first home run
And he put it in
back in a
reverse.
Cardinals uniform.
Said, I'm going home.
So this kind of stuff happens
A lot.
with me.
A lot.
I think another one happened.
Oh, boy.
So
over you, like, BKOing the Knicks?
I didn't know this until yesterday, Alex. I just found this out. So you guys remember Monday night, Knicks are playing. Everybody that we went with to New York kind of had like, this is something that I would like to do while we are there. For Kara, she wanted to go to a Broadway show. That was like the number one, got to do this while we're there.
He said, I want to go to the Knicks.
Well, for me, it was I want to watch the Knicks game with Knicks fans in a bar in New York, right? Like, this is a really cool moment, and for us to be able to be there while it's happening for the first time in more than 30 years, I might never get a chance like this again, so I'd like to take advantage of it while we're out there. So we're doing that, and Kara wanted to go later that night on Monday night to a comedy club. She wanted it while we were in New York. She was like, hey, we don't have anything else going on. Let's go to the Comedy Cellar. We'll see what's going on over there. So we check it out. I'm totally cool with that. I'd say, hey.
Legendary spot. That's fun.
Absolutely. I'd like to watch the Knicks game, and then afterwards we can go to the Comedy Cellar. Well, another person in the group decides, hey, not super interested in going to see comedy tonight. Would rather do something different. Fine, no harm, no foul.
That person's a buzzkill.
Moral of the story, we don't end up going to the Comedy Cellar that night. We end up doing a bunch of other cool stuff, go to great cocktail places. Like, it ended up being a good night for us nonetheless.
Here we go. Who showed up?
Yesterday, saw this posted on Reddit. New York is the title. Well, I must have hit the lottery. Caught the 11:30 Comedy Cellar show last night, Monday night. This was posted on Tuesday. Honestly, not even sold out.
Where'd you go?
There were tickets available.
How much were tickets, by the way?
Place was kind of dead. Knicks game was on. Well, about 4 comedians show up. Host calls up one of them. Turns out it was Chris Rock.
Oh, my God.
Place goes wild. In all honesty, Chris had the place electrified just with his presence. He then proceeded to eat blank and just bombed. Recovered for the last 5 minutes or so. But then something crazy happened. Dave Chappelle emerged from the stairwell. The place goes absolutely wild. He lights a smoke, grabs a drink, and then hits us with just shy of 2 hours of comedy gold. He was just kind of riffing up there, talking crap. Then he brings up a drunk, but still funny, Shane Gillis.
Oh, my
for
God.
the last 20 minutes of their set. Totally slay up there together. Basically, the 3 of them, Chris Rock, Dave Chappelle, and Shane Gillis.
And the drunk
were
Shane
at
Gillis is
the
even
Knicks
better.
game together. They swung in, dropped an impromptu set. I still can't believe this happened.
Oh. Yeah, you screwed up, man.
See, I actually don't think this one's as bad.
Oh, that's because you don't understand the status of those guys.
I know those guys are big, but like It's one thing to know that something's possible, and it's a whole other one. It's a surprise at the comedy club.
Yeah,
like
but the Knicks are playing that night, so you kind of know that there's celebrities around, and typically at those comedy cellars, especially in New York,
that thought never crossed my mind.
Oh, see, that's what I would, because those guys make impromptu ones.
Now I know it should have, because apparently they went back after Game 4.
Oh yeah. That's
so
how
last
those
night
things,
or 2 nights ago, I guess it was. They were also there.
That's how those things go in New York and L.A. Those famous comedians, they just go because they know it's an open door invitation.
You want to hear a worse part?
I don't know how you could get worse than Dave Chappelle.
How much do you think tickets were?
$25.
15.
Oh my God! Why didn't you just say I'm going to go if you wanted to go to comedy? Like nobody else wanted to do it?
Why do we have to stick with the group?
The Knicks game didn't end until after this comedy show started.
Because you weren't going to miss the Knicks one. But at that point, wasn't the game kind of already, was it tight at that point?
Yeah,
Game 3 was pretty tight. Yeah. It wasn't like Game 4 was kind of over by halftime.
I mean, I get it, but this is coming from somebody who's not that into basketball.
BK, he would miss the big comedians when they show up after Game 3,
come
but
back
sticks around because it's a close game. Then Game 4, he's like, we got to go to the comedy club. This game's over at halftime, and then miss one of the greatest comebacks in NBA history.
Yeah, this is coming from a have to watch the game. That would have been like, oh yeah, we've got to do this because it's a legendary comedy shop, and those guys have those impromptu appearances.
Yeah.
I still don't think it's as bad as the other ones.
Oh, God.
Dude,
the Dave Chappelle
impromptu, Chris Rock. I don't care about Shane Gillis. He does nothing for me.
I like his comedy. I think he's hilarious, and the fact that he's drunk would even be funnier. But 2 hours of Dave Chappelle, that's the part. Like, Chris Rock is just like, hey, I saw a legendary comedian.
And the fact that you didn't know you were getting this. And like the comedy sellers in New York are not huge arena.
No,
it's an intimate crowd. It's like you and your probably 100 closest friends.
And the Knicks game going on, there's probably like 15 to 20 people there.
Yeah, it was probably close to empty. And
2 hours of it. Like, and the fact that
you
Dave
get like legit Dave stuff that he's probably just working on a set or something right now. Man. This is stuff that has not been seen elsewhere. This is not part of a special or anything like that. He's just riffing. And so I would imagine there's a decent amount of material for Dave Chappelle to work with right now.
I don't typically say like, man, you really messed up, because like, there's moments that just that's the one that you messed up on. Yeah. At least for me, because that's something that I don't think I'd ever want to forget.
You guys should start asking yourself a question. For now on, when you make these decisions, should we go to the Dodgers game or eat out? Well, what could happen at that other event we all go to?
The other people
How has that question not come up yet?
When you're trying to make a decision.
So here's what would have happened, though. If we didn't stay for the Knicks game and we went to this comedy cellar, what probably would have happened is nobody comes. Mm-hmm. We have a normal night at a comedy cellar, which would have been fine. Yeah. Nothing wrong with that. But then the Knicks have this crazy comeback, and they end up winning Game 3, and we miss out on that because we went to the comedy cellar. I can't win here, man.
See, for me,
it's guaranteed something's going to get screwed up because I'm involved.
Yeah. Well, and that's why for you, anytime like the group says, I don't really want to do that, and they all go the opposite direction, you need to stick with your gut and go with what you want to do. Especially for that one. It's like, I'm going to go. It's 11:30 at night. I'm going to go to the comedy cellar. I'll meet up with you guys afterwards. God, you need to live with the fact that you missed an impromptu 2 hours of Dave Chappelle.
I wasn't sure who you were going to say. I knew it was going to be a big name when you started to tell the story because I saw all the comedians.
I think Dave Chappelle would be number one on my list of like, oh my God, that was an option.
I thought you were going to say Seinfeld.
Chris Rock would have been cool.
I thought he was going to say Sandler.
Oh, yeah, because I saw Sandler was there too. Yeah.
Chris Rock by itself would have just been like, dude, that was incredible. Even if he was bad.
Absolutely.
I saw Chris Rock on stage. But Dave Chappelle is one of those that it's like, you don't get to see him very often because he just doesn't do it as much. Oh.
Yeah.
You done messed up,
I know,
Ron.
man. I know. Somebody from the 314
You should look at the person that says, I don't really want to do the comedy cellar, and be like, this is your fault. This is all your fault.
Some of it was on me. I wanted to see the Knicks game. Like, I have to take some ownership of that, too. And had the Knicks game ended at 11, we might have been able to convince the other person to go to the comedy cellar. So I am every bit as much at fault as anybody else in the group. Because my North Star for this group was
the Knicks.
I got to see this Knicks game. I really want to watch this
internally, I'm so angry at you. Because I want to hear, like, when you sent me the picture of Josh Gad, I was like, oh, I'm so jealous. That's awesome. Wow, internally, if I would have gotten a Dave Chappelle picture at 1 o'clock in the morning, ooh.
Yeah, so I think that one's worse than the Pujols.
Congrats on your cock. Yeah, that one absolutely is worse than the Pujols one.
Can we have a honest moment here? I had to look up who we were talking about on my computer for both of those.
You don't know who Dave Chappelle is?
I didn't know. Well, I recognize him now, but like I didn't know who he was when you just said that name.
Dave Chappelle show
Dave
was around when
Chappelle?
you were young.
Yeah,
Like you were,
No.
It was the 2000s.
Yeah, he was like
Oh,
two.
yeah, I guess
yeah.
you were. I keep forgetting you're born in.
But Dave
Chris Rock,
Chappelle,
I knew.
Dave Chappelle is a big enough comedian though, that I would think that you're
still
familiar.
popular
Again,
enough.
I recognize him now. I've looked him up, but I couldn't picture him when you
And
said the
Shane
name.
Gillis, you know, right?
No, yeah, but again, it was one of those
Popular
where
now.
I didn't recognize. I couldn't picture the face without looking him up. He's the Bud Light commercial guy. Yeah,
Man,
that's what he's known for in my brain.
Come on, man.
With Peyton Manning.
Alongside Alex and
Come on,
T-Bone,
man.
I'm BK. Appreciate you guys.
God, you're a loser.
I know. My wife feels the same way. My wife really wanted to go to the Comedy Cellar. Like she was really
So wait,
trying
did
to
she
go.
not get? You said that was on her list. Did she not
No,
get to?
hers was
The
Broadway.
Broadway was
Oh,
her
okay.
number one thing.
I was gonna say, man, tough trip if she didn't get to accomplish the one thing she wanted to do. But
She definitely
got Broadway,
wanted.
so that's good.
She would have really liked to have gone to the
Yeah.
Comedy Cellar. Like that was probably up there. She definitely did not care about the Knicks thing. how is not one of her top priorities? In fact, we left another place because she was kind of bored being there to go to a different spot, which became kind of a thing. But yeah,
Yeah, for you,
Apparently,
Kara.
apparently, I need to like vacation with you guys.
And go wherever they don't
Because
go.
me and
just
Kara,
follow
would,
Kara.
yeah, me and Kara would be like, screw what he's doing. Let's go do this because we know fun will happen.
But you're not gonna stay up till 4 a.m. every night with them.
At a Comedy Cellar, if Dave Chappelle is performing at 1:30 in the morning, absolutely I will.
I think you'd be sleeping.
I don't think so at all. That's one of those that's like when you go to Vegas. I don't sleep in Vegas because that's just some of those places you can't miss.
All right, alongside Alex and T-Bone, I'm BK. Joe Ryan on the mound for the Twins this weekend. Is he somebody the Cardinals should have interest in? We'll talk about it next year on 101 ESPN. Alongside Alex and T-Bone, I'm BK. Glad we could have that heart-to-heart together. Now let's get back to the sports side of things. Cardinals in action this evening on the road at Minnesota, starting a 3-game set. Joe Ryan is on the mound for the Minnesota Twins. Alex, Joe Ryan's a hell of a pitcher. 3.0 ERA so far this year, and this is not an outlier. 3.5, 4.5, 3.6, 3.4 ERAs over the last 4 seasons. So in other words, 4 of the last 5 years, he's been a 3.5 ERA or below, basically. And he's a consistent 150-plus inning starter. He has 1 more year of control beyond this season. He's 30 years old right now. I don't know what the Twins' plans are. I'm going to go out on a limb and say they're probably not going to win a whole lot of meaning with Joe Ryan as part of their rotation over the next year and a half. So I would assume at some point, either at this year's deadline or in the offseason, they're going to be listening to offers for Joe Ryan. I would also assume they're going to be expecting some kind of a haul in return because he's a very good starter that can be a legit number 2 starter probably for, a World Series contending type of a team. Is that something you would explore if he becomes available at this year's trade deadline if you were in Chaim Bloom's shoes?
No, I don't think I would, because I think for how steep of a price that's going to be. And the one thing with pitchers is, yes, he's a proven commodity, but how much longer can he be a proven commodity? Like, does it continue when he's 32, 33, 34? And I think you're going to be paying a lot of what you're hoping for in your future to just get this guy. And I just don't think you're ready to win right now or next year. So, no, I wouldn't. I think this maybe, if he's a free agent, maybe explore it at that point. But, no, I think I would rather bank on my future than go get this for the now.
I think I would do it. I just don't think the Cardinals are going to do it. And I think it's because of what Alex said there. I think it's going to be the price they're going to have to pay. I don't know that this is a great 1-for-1 comp because this was a full season that this team acquired the starting pitcher for, but it was for 2 years of control, 2 playoff runs, I should say. And I think it's probably going to be something like when the Padres landed Dylan Cease. And the Padres gave up a top 100 prospect in all of baseball, a pitcher, and then 2 of their prospects that were top 10 in their system and a reliever in that deal. I think it's probably something along those lines.
Sure.
Pretty close, maybe a little bit less off of it because of the fact that you're not getting them for a full season like the Padres did. But I think that's what you're looking at. And I think that's probably just too pricey for the St. Louis Cardinals right now, especially the way we hear Chaim talk. Every time you hear him talk and he gets asked about the deadline, he always mentions, hey, look, we're not going to really salvage our future, right? We're not going to put that on the line at this deadline because we're not going to be willing to sacrifice for the here and now. We're still playing the long game, and I think this would be a long game move because of the prospect you'd have to give up. But he's a stud. I would make the move happen. I don't think they will.
This is just a hypothetical scenario, and I don't know what they'd be looking for. But if they said, hey, we want Leo Bernal, we want Quinn Matthews, and we want one of Nolan Gorman or Victor Scott. Probably Victor Scott. Let's go with Victor Scott.
That deal I'm doing in a heartbeat. Because I'm only giving up 1 pitcher. I'm not giving up any top prospect in my position player side of things.
Bernal's a top 100 prospect.
But I still have Rodriguez.
So is Matthews, right? Isn't he a top 100?
Those guys are both like in that range. So this is not a small package to give up.
That's the one that would hurt the worst, the Quinn Matthews, but I'm replacing Quinn Matthews for something right now. I was thinking we're talking like Liam Doyle and Reynel Rodriguez.
Those kinds of prospects just don't get traded. Like, those are top 20 guys in baseball. Like, Liam Doyle was a top 5 pick last year. Those guys don't get dealt a year after getting selected. And Reynel Rodriguez right now is a top 20 prospect in the sport. Unless you're San Diego's crazy asses, you don't trade players that are ranked that high in the prospect pool, especially not for somebody like a Joe Ryan, who's a good pitcher, a really good pitcher, but he's not an ace.
Yeah. I mean, in that deal that you just said, yeah, I'm pulling the trigger on that, absolutely. I just assume it's going to cost more than that, and that's where I'm just not going to get to the point where it's too pricey. If one of Doyle, Baez, or Rodriguez are in the conversation, then it's not happening for me.
I think Leo Bernal could be the kind of player that is at least a dual headliner in a deal like this. I mean, think about what the Cardinals got for Brendan Donovan. I understand he's not a pitcher, but Brendan Donovan had multiple years of club control remaining. He can fit any team in Major League Baseball. He's super cost controlled. He's a great guy inside of the clubhouse. Like, everything you could want in a player, Brendan Donovan provides that for you. And in terms of the prospect pedigree, the prospect capital that they got in return, they got Jurangelo Cijntje, who I think it's fair to say is kind of Quinn Matthews-esque in terms of his prospect
could eventually
pedigree.
Become a top 100 guy.
Yeah. And they got Ty Pete, who is a little further away, but has some upside as a player. kind of similar to Leo Bernal, but a little further away, so he's not quite as much of a sure thing. If you're telling me Leo Bernal and Quinn Matthews are in a prospects package together, I think you can get a pretty damn good player for that. And I think that could at least be the starting point for somebody like a Joe Ryan. And if that's something that the Twins would be interested in, I think I'd probably do it. I know it's a lot to give up, no doubt, but Joe Ryan's the kind of pitcher that this team lacks right now. And I'm also not totally sure they have one of those in the system currently.
I agree with that. I don't know if they've got the right-handed version of that. I think they're hoping that Doyle can become that top-end starter that's from the left side. You know, we'll see on Sanger. Maybe that's the guy that you're holding out hope for, or honestly, Franklin, but he's a ways away. The thing for me with Joe Ryan is you almost have to feel like you're going to be able to extend him to pull that kind of a move. Because if you're going to depart with Quinn Matthews, that's a guy he's not ready yet, but it feels like he's getting close. You know, he had another good outing yesterday. It feels like he's on the cusp of being a big leaguer. Well, that's 6 years of control for a lefty with some upside. Like, he could be a pretty solid number 3 with strikeout stuff. I think that could be his ceiling. So am I going to give up 6 years of control for that for a guy that I may only have for a year and a half? And I don't even know what you're going to look like next year. Maybe you are a playoff team, but if you don't make significant moves, you're like a fringe playoff team.
Joe Ryan helps you in that regard.
He does help you, but, you know,
But if Jordan Walker disappears, then...
Yeah, but if Jordan Walker disappears, my whole build is screwed.
Yeah, it's like the Guerrero thing.
And that's why I think I'd rather just keep the pieces and keep building that direction.
My whole point, though, when I say that is, unless you make some other moves to help with, it can't just be Joe Ryan. There needs to be some other additions as well to help you out in the offseason, which they might be willing to make.
Yeah, you've got to do that.
Then I'm in on it. But the reason that I said, like, if they're not going to be willing to do that, they're just going to say, hey, we're going to build this thing from within, then I can't guarantee you're a playoff team. And now I just acquired for Joe Ryan for a playoff run, and then you're potentially dealing him at the deadline, which may not be the worst thing in the world.
Yeah.
I would just
give
say
him a QO.
You acquire him and you extend him. That would be my way of going about this, because now I know, okay, where's the build start for the Cardinals? Jordan Walker's the pinpoint for the offense. Joe Ryan's the pinpoint for the rotation.
Is he a number one, though?
From there.
I think he can be a 1 or a 2 for a really good team.
Yeah.
I think he's a 1 the way that Sonny Gray was a 1.
Yeah.
And I think you're still hoping, and I guess your development, you're hoping Doyle takes over that. So, yeah, I mean, look, at the package you said, that would be one, and maybe I'm lowballing what the profile of Bernal is. I just think you got a lot of catchers, and Rodriguez seems to be the one that they really like. If that's the deal, then, I mean, I'm all on board with this, because really, to me, the tough one is Quinn Matthews. And if I'm getting a better version of Quinn Matthews and I still have my pipeline in place, then, yeah, that trade I do in a heartbeat. I just think it costs more.
Yeah, it might. But this is the kind of move that, to me, would signify, all right, they believe in what they've started to build here, and they're willing to cash in on some of these chips. And I would say the chips that they're cashing in on here are the kind of chips that they have multiple pieces in those areas. Like at catcher, I think somebody among the catchers is going to be moved. I don't know who it's going to be. Maybe it's Crooks. Maybe it's Bernal. I don't think it's going to be Rodriguez. Maybe it's Pedro Pajes. Maybe it's multiple of those players that I just mentioned there. But you're not going to be able to use all of them on the Major League roster. So eventually, that's going to need to cash in as a chip for something else, something that you're currently missing on the roster.
Joke's on you. Cardinals like to have 5 catchers on their roster.
Sure. Maybe that becomes a third baseman. Maybe it becomes a center fielder. Maybe it becomes a pitcher. I don't know. But those are the kinds of things that they're going to start looking at sooner rather than later. The 40-man's also getting a little clogged at that position. And I would say on the pitching side of things, you've got a lot of guys that are now returning to health sooner rather than later. So you might be able to take something from this AAA pitching depth and move it to get a piece that can help you right now. Maybe that's Quinn Matthews. Maybe that's Bryson Motts. Maybe that's, I don't know, whenever he comes back, TK Roby next year becomes one of those movable pieces. Regardless, they've got chips now that they did not have previously, and that is a credit to Chaim Bloom for putting them in this position to where they can move some pieces and not feel as though, now we're completely barren. We've got nothing else at those respective positions moving forward. Here's a quick question. We talked about this today on the Redbird Report, Alex. People can find that, by the way, youtube.com/101ESPNSTL and at 101ESPN.com. If they decided to make a move similar to what they've done in the past, and they use a major league player or a guy that's on the 40-man to be able to improve their current roster, who do you think would be the player that's most likely to be that for them?
To be dealt?
So, like, they used Harrison Bader to be able to go get Jordan Montgomery.
To acquire something, not sell it.
Yeah.
Correct. They used Johan Oviedo, who was on the 40-man at the time, to go get Quintana.
Lane Thomas to get John Lester.
Yeah. Jay Happ, they got John Gant. Yeah. Those kinds of moves. If they did
Bernal on the 40-man?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. If they did a similar kind of a move this year, who do you think would be the most likely player to be used in that?
I would still put Lars Nootbaar in that. I think Lars is the one because the position that they're going to want Joshua Baez to take. But after the conversation, Bernal would be a close second. But I think I would land on Lars Nootbaar.
See, I view Nootbaar as a sell move, not a use him to buy something.
I think you buy and sell with that, like you did with Bader.
The reason I say, well, maybe, okay.
Because it depends how they feel about Baez. Yeah. If they feel like Baez is ready, you could just replace him with Baez.
My point was, typically the team you're buying from isn't going to need an outfielder with a year and a half of control.
I see what you're saying.
Now, to your point on Bader, that happened to be a win-win, right?
A team that has a surplus of pitchers.
Yankees needed a center fielder. They said, we just acquired Frankie Montas. We don't need Jordan Montgomery. Mistakes were made. But
and maybe the Royals are that team, right? Maybe the Royals say, hey, we don't think we're going to win this year, but maybe next year he fits into our plans. And we start our offseason.
And we got a lot of pitchers that we're okay with moving. Because that's why I think I look at Newton and say, if they're hoping that Baez continues to track, that by August the strikeouts are down, the power is still there, okay, well, this guy's going to be playing that position by next year no matter what. Can we get something that helps us in the run now if we think Baez is ready and Nootbaar provides us that piece to go get the pitcher? That would be my mindset. But if it's pure like trade player, not a part of your future, helps you now, that's where I would say Leo Bernal.
Yeah, and I think it's the guys that I would put on that list, Palante and Libby would be ones that I think they could use as trade assets because I think if you're buying, you're probably adding pitching, either starter or bullpen. If it's a bullpen arm, you're probably not doing what I'm saying. You're probably going to the catcher depth to make that move. Mm-hmm. But if you're adding a starter, why not just exchange a starter for a starter? We'll give you a younger cost control arm that we're not sure has much of an upside. Palante probably doesn't fit into our rotation. As a rebuilding team, you're going to need an arm that can cover some innings and a guy that could pitch into your future. We'll give you one of Palante for Libby, and we'll take on one of these starters.
See, I think I would move Libby in that scenario and just put Palante in the bullpen.
In the playoffs?
Yeah.
Or in the playoffs, sure.
Because if I'm bringing in that starting pitcher for Libby, if we're going pitcher for pitcher and say, well, I don't think the upside's there.
Palante just doesn't play up in the bullpen. Like Libby would if you were to do that.
Yeah.
That's why
I think Libby might be more desirable from a team because of age and, the left-handed side versus Palante.
Mention this. You can hear my full explanation on the Redbird report where we had a little more time to get into it. But I think Victor Scott could be this. I really wonder how other teams in Major League Baseball would value him right now. I understand it's been so bad this season. But if you believed in what we saw a year ago, and you think there's a little bit more pop in there even in his bat, I could see how as an opposing general manager, you could say, all right, we could switch up a couple of things here. We might be able to get him closer to league average as a hitter. And if we can, given what he does defensively, given what he can do on the base paths, we think we've got a 3-win player, and he could be our starting center fielder for the next 5 years for us. If another team views him that way, I wonder if the Cardinals could trade him the way that they traded Harrison Bader and get something of significance in return. I don't know. I don't know how other general managers view him right now, but he would be the guy that I would throw into this conversation as well because they very clearly have an internal replacement for his spot in the lineup. Coming up in 15 minutes, we'll play a game of One's Gotta Go, but next, we're seeing the value of goaltending tandems in the postseason. Is this why teams don't trade for goalies anymore? We'll talk about it next here on 101 ESPN. All right, so we're seeing the value right now of goaltending tandems in the NHL. Look at what's going on with the Carolina Hurricanes. They needed both of these dudes to be able to get to where they are right now.
All three of them in the regular season.
And they're not the only team. We saw multiple teams go to a couple of different goalies. Alex, is this why we don't see teams value goaltending at the trade deadline? Because we talked about it with Jordan Binnington as we got closer to the deadline this year. Teams just don't trade significant assets for him.
Right.
Is this why?
Yeah, I think so. I think it's because, well, typically at the trade deadline, teams don't like to trade for goaltenders because there's a history of goalies not paying off that when you get for a month left of the season that they adapt to the team and the system, and it's not an easy thing to do. It's why you see more goalies get moved in the offseason, but the price still is just not that expensive because, yeah, it is a fickle business to where it'll treat you well for one season, and then she will just ruin your life the next season when you think it's going to work. Look at Jacob Markstrom, for example. Like, that guy was a desired commodity around the National Hockey League for how good he was. I know. Geez, do we have to hack up along while we're talking here?
Yes. At least he didn't slurp through a straw during an interview.
That's good point. Hey, come on, man.
Got him.
I don't have any more in that one. Does that, you not like that sound?
No, I don't.
All right, I'll find other ways to put that one in. No, I think teams understand that, yes, goalies are good, and you need a guy that has success in the playoffs, but I also don't know what that goalie is going to be in a different system with a different team in front of them, so I don't want to take that chance with it, and I'm not going to pay a high commodity. Now, it's different when a Andrei Vasilevsky or, Sergei Bobrovsky are available because those guys just have a long list of successes with them. But I think for guys like Jordan Binnington and for all of these other goaltenders, yeah, they look at it as he's good, but I'm going to have at least two guys if I want to have success in the postseason.
It's nice to have a guy. I mean, look at what Tampa Bay had where they were winning those cups. They had Vasilevsky, best goalie in the league at that time. You look at what Bobrovsky was able to do over the last couple of years with Florida.
Fleury with the Pittsburgh Penguins.
No doubt. But also, you can be Vegas with Aiden Hill. You can be Colorado with Darcy Kemper. You can be the Blues where suddenly this guy, Jordan Binnington, who wasn't even really on your goalie depth chart, emerges, and he goes on this absolute heater, right? Was it Holtby with the Washington Capitals when they won it as well? The Penguins flipped their goalies midway through one of those playoff runs. So it's more often that we see that version of goalie success in the playoffs than it is that we see Bobrovsky or Vasilevsky who just go on this multi-year reign of terror over the rest of the league. And I think that's what's leading to this. I think it's very similar to closers in Major League Baseball, where, yes, it is a vital position. And if you don't have it and you get to the playoffs, dude, you feel it. You get to that ninth inning and everybody in the stadium, everybody watching at home, there's some puckering going on, right? Like you're waiting for this game to flip on a dime, and it ended in the worst possible way for you. But also, those guys can emerge from anywhere. Like suddenly the Yankees can have the former Cardinals starter, Luke Weaver, who goes on this crazy run as a reliever after he was a failed starter for a number of years. And the Cardinals can go into the playoffs with one closer and finish with a different one. I think that it works for teams once they have the rest of their roster figured out. But if you don't have the goalie, you can kind of learn that thing on the fly.
The thing that's weird about it, though, is because I agree. I think goalies are like relievers, right? Because they're hot one year, then they can go cold at any time. The thing that's so weird about, though, is that the Major League Baseball, you know what everybody's going to look for at the deadline? Relievers. Any GM that's out there, what's his name? Hazen, the GM of the Diamondbacks, was just recently asked 2 months from the deadline, hey, what are you going to look for at the deadline? A bullpen arm. Well, yeah, every GM's going to say that. But in the NHL, we clearly have a goaltending problem. We'll stick with what we got.
But you only have two guys, and typically one gets the starts for a goaltender. Meanwhile, for the relievers, you're going to play 7 of them over the course of the
most
postseason.
Important thing in it. I would argue the bullpen's the most important thing in October now. I would argue the most important thing to have in the NHL when you get to the postseason is goaltending.
I agree.
Because if you don't have goaltending, the odds of you overcoming that are very low.
That's super important, but you can't predict it as well as you can predict bullpen arms.
I think they're just as predictable. I don't you can't predict a bullpen. The Yankees last year acquired Bednar and Duvall, who are having great years in the bullpen.
And they failed. But let's be honest, this postseason, this goaltending was predictable.
And you give up more.
Frederik Andersen has never been a guy that's been good past the second round. Carter Hart has not played all season, and it was very predictable that both were not going to be great in the Stanley Cup final. Because, but both had a career 800 save percentage so
I'm
far.
in agreement. I actually view this as the season where it is indicative of what I'm saying here, which is, I mean, they could go on a heater for a couple of weeks. You get there to the Stanley Cup final, and then we'll find out what happens there. Right?
I think these guys were predictable, and that's why it's like,
predictable in what sense?
That they're not going to be good at this level, and they're going to be a liability.
To the final.
Yeah, I don't know. We can say they're not good when they're in the cup.
They're literally playing for the Stanley Cup final. This is what everything is for: is to get here.
But what I'm saying is, it was predictable these guys were going to struggle in the Stanley Cup final.
Sure, and so they flipped to the other guy, and now the other guy's had a good game or two, and so this is why you don't go spend resources on the position, because right now, Carolina, part of why they're able to have so many great players when it comes to earlier today, you said, hey, defensively, they're really good at all of these different spots. Yes, and some of that is because they have the money to spend there, because they're not spending the money on their goalies. They're spending, $4 million this year on their goalie tandem combined?
Oh, no, Anderson's making more money than that.
Is he?
Yeah, Frederik Anderson's making...
is it $2 million?
Puckpedia transitioned to
what?
They transitioned to next year.
Yet.
No, they transitioned to next year, so I don't know. Yeah, 2.75. Man, I thought he was more expensive than
nothing.
That. Yeah, they're paying cheap.
So if you've got cheap goaltending and you can get this out of them, I would say they view this as a massive success this season for what they were able to get out of their goalies. This is all they needed. Hey, be good enough for us not to worry about you. That's what Colorado needed. Hey, Darcy Kemper, don't screw this up.
Yeah.
We just need you to not allow 4 goals.
That guy had one eye.
That was the ask of Carter Hart as well, is just don't allow 4 goals in every game in the Stanley Cup final. We're going to have a pretty good shot to win it if you do. Guess what? He's allowed 4 more goals in every single game so far. So, yeah, it has fallen on its face for them. But for the Carolina Hurricanes doing basically the same plan, it's worked out great.
Yeah. I mean, it's also why I think you'll hear a lot of names of goaltending in the offseason. Because trade deadline, you don't see goalies move, but stat lines and history in the playoffs matters in the offseason. Now, I don't think you're going to see guys get traded because people don't want to pay the price that other teams value of their goaltender, but it's why Bobrovsky's name is going to be out there all offseason. It's why I think Binnington's name is going to continue to be out there this offseason. Teams want change when it comes to the offseason, but when the season begins, they don't trust the in-season trades, which is why, you just stick with what you have. Or when you try and make changes, you make minor changes, and sometimes it pays off like it did for Colorado.
Alongside Alex and T-Bone, I'm BK. One's got to go next here on 101 ESPN.
Tanner Hendrickson here, the Sports Center update brought to you by Saliga Heating and Cooling. Cardinals lost to the Mets yesterday, but they start a 3-game set at the Minnesota Twins tonight. 7:10 will be first pitch. Kyle Leahy will be on the mound for St. Louis. Joe Ryan will get the start for Minnesota. The Sports Center update is brought to you by Saliga Heating and Cooling, an Icon heating and air conditioning dealer.
Three 314-399-9646. That's the Air Comfort Service text line for One's Gotta Go. You give us 4 options, we'll tell you which one's gotta go. Let's start out with this one from the 314. Cards 2027 Rotation Edition, Alex. One's gotta go. Dustin May, Andre Palante, Kyle Leahy, or Hunter Dobbins.
I'll say Kyle Leahy.
I think I would say... I'll say Leahy. I was debating between him and Palante. I think Leahy can play up in the bullpen, so by kicking him out of the rotation, you can put him in the bullpen and really boost that pin. Palante you could use as a trade piece, but I'll lean Leahy for now.
Yep. Sweep it. Same exact rationale as what T-Bone just said. One's got to go. A 100-degree day, that includes humidity.
Oh, I don't
A
need the rest of the list.
0-degree day, or an all-day rain event.
Oh, that's easy. 100-degree day for me. That's miserable to be outside in.
I'll go 0-degree day. I can just put layers on and handle it. I hate the rain, especially being out in it. And when you get to 100 degrees with humidity, now you're just talking about death being outside.
So he doesn't get the game, huh?
No. You know this is one's got to go. One's got to stay.
Yeah, no. Yeah, no. I was trying to think which one I'd handle. The rain would go for me. The rain would go for me there.
You knew here?
You'd rather have a 0 or 100-degree day than the rain.
Yeah, I used to have to work out in that all day. Like, imagine being in it all day.
But now you work in here.
Well, I understand that, but the scenario was being out at an event in the rain all day.
When did we say that?
That was one of the options. An all-day rain event.
I think they meant just it's raining all day.
Oh, no,
not outside all
I
day.
heard it as being out at an event in the rain.
Boy, you don't understand the game and you didn't hear the question.
I mean, like, why not just say a day where it's raining all day then? Why is it an all-day rain event?
No, it just said all-day rain.
Event. The word event was in there. You guys laugh all you want. That was framed as you're at an event where you're in the rain all day. Text or whoever sent that scenario in, tell me I'm right.
So which one do you hate the most?
I'd get rid of being out in the rain all day.
Okay, sounds great, man. 100 degrees, gotta go.
Because that's miserable.
All-day rain event. If that was just rain, then yeah, cool. Get rid of the heat. I don't care if it's raining and I'm inside.
Man, it's your game.
No, don't laugh at me when the scenario made no sense.
Only been a Friday afternoon staple for like 4 years.
Yeah, no, that one I completely lost it on. That one I'll admit.
From bacon wrapped wiener, one's got to go fried meat edition. Fried chicken, fried fish, or fried turkey? Fried turkey, get out of here.
Fried turkey?
I don't even know if I've ever had
fried turkey.
I've had smoked turkey. That's good.
Is fried turkey? Oh, maybe like even the turkey legs at Six Flags isn't fried.
Yeah, Thanksgiving.
Yeah, you can fry
it all the time.
I don't think I've ever had a fried turkey.
I would get rid of it just because I love fried chicken and fried fish. I would try fried turkey. It sounds pretty good. But
we watched. Did you watch Off Campus, Alex?
No.
The
I keep
new
getting
hockey
asked
show?
about that. No. I don't really have any interest in that.
I get it. That's fine. It's this, I mean, the latest edition. Like, Heated Rivalry was this kind of same thing. So they have a scene in it where they're trying to fry turkey, and as you can probably imagine, hilarity ensues. So that's the
As one does when you try and fry turkey.
Yeah. It turns out it can cause a fire.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's why my family never did it, and that's why I've never done it.
One's got to go. Weakest link for the Cardinals edition. Gorman, Victor Scott II, Pajes, or Sajasi. If you're saying, like, got to go away from the St. Louis Cardinals, get them out of town, I would say the one that I'm most willing to give up on at this point is, crazy as it may seem, Nolan Gorman. Given his age, contract status, what they've been, what's coming through the system, I think Gorman would be the one that I'm most willing to give up on.
Yeah, mine's between Gorman and Pajes because I just don't feel like they provide anything. The only reason I'm not wanting to skip Gorman is because at least he can play third base. Pajes struggled defensively behind the plate, so I think I'd get rid of Pajes.
I'd get rid of Gorman because his one tool wasn't ever even his defense. It was his power, and it's clearly just gone. He doesn't have it anymore. With Pajes, I think his defense could come back. Same with Scott, and Sajaci could be a decent defender. I think it's Gorman for me, and he's had plenty of time to try and prove otherwise.
Alongside Alex and T-Bone, I'm BK. Hey, next Friday morning, TMA, along with all of our radio friends from all 5 Hubbard radio stations, are set to team up to fill a truck for Operation Food Search with support from Lee's Famous Recipe Chicken and the Happy Roof Company. Stop by the station next Friday morning because TMA is going to be heading downstairs. They're broadcasting live out front in our parking lot from 7 to 11, and they're collecting canned foods and non-perishable food items as well. We'll be handing out donuts from Donut Drive-In while supplies last, and everyone who stops by has a chance to enter to win a $500 grand prize. Now is a critical time to support as summers see a big drop-off in food donations. So come on by 7 to 11 with TMA 101 ESPN and Hubbard St. Louis next Friday morning. Coming up next, we'll hit the rewind, put a ball on this thing here on BK and Ferrario.
Hey, join me this Thursday night with Mick Ultra at the Mexican STL for Mexico versus South Korea. Me and the 101 crew and Mick Ultra will be on site with 101 ESPN and Ultra giveaway starting at 6 o'clock, leading up to kickoff for Mexico versus South Korea at 8. Michelob Ultra, a superior light beer and the official beer sponsor of the FIFA World Cup 26. So be sure to enjoy an Ultra as you cheer on for your favorite team this Thursday starting at 6 with me, Michelob Ultra, at the Mexican STL 9615 Watson Road in Sappington, leading up to Mexico versus South Korea at 8. Get all the details at 101ESPN.com. That was a novel.
How'd you feel about that?
I had one screw up. You typically have about 3. So
That's fair.
One's not bad. And I thought it said enter to win, and it was enjoy. So.
Hey, the second time, I think you're going to crush that. If you guys missed anything from today's show, be sure to check it out on the podcast page. 101ESPN.com, and the free 101 ESPN app is where you go to find it. It's all sponsored by
Schaefer Door Company.
That 101 ESPN app, super easy to use. It is free to download. It is sponsored by Dobbs Tire and Auto Centers. By the way, you could check out the latest edition of The Redbird Report, available right now, youtube.com/101ESPN-STL, or wherever it is that you get your podcast, whether that's a 101ESPN.com feed, the 101 ESPN app, or just your podcast feed on your phone. You can get it wherever you prefer. All right, Alex, before we get out of here today, Cardinals back in action this weekend. They will be taking on a dreadful Minnesota Twins team. They got a couple of decent pitchers that you're going to see, especially tonight where you're going up against Joe Ryan. That should be an interesting matchup, but their offense is awful, and this is a pretty bad team overall. How you feeling going into the weekend for the Cards versus the Twins?
I feel good about it. Again, this was the month that I thought they could take advantage of, and I don't know if they sweep this one, but I do think they take 2 of 3 against Minnesota.
Yeah, that's where I am. I think you take 2 or 3 at a minimum. They should be able to potentially play for a sweep in this because the pitching should be able to hold down that lineup. It comes down to what's the offense going to look like against these starters, because Joe Ryan's pretty good. Tosh Bradley's had a decent year as well for the Twins. So what do you do against those guys will be what determines if they win this series or not.
I think they get 2 out of 3 in this one, and then I think they get 2 out of 3 against the Padres, but we'll talk about that when we return on Monday. Tomorrow night, it is the Knicks versus the Spurs. Game 5 in this series. Knicks up 3-1. They return back to San Antonio. Alex, do they get it done?
No, Knicks win. It's done.
Yeah, I think it is done. So I'm going Knicks win this one. I think they potentially blow this out.
I think blowout. I think the Spurs ultimately win this game. It goes back to the Garden, and the Knicks take it down in 6. The Spurs are a 6-point home favorite. A little surprised by that, but a 6-point home favorite for the San Antonio Spurs. On Sunday, you'll be able to hear Game 6 of the NHL Stanley Cup Final, Golden Knights versus the Hurricanes. Alex's game will be in Vegas. Vegas is a slight dog to the Hurricanes. Who you got?
I got the Hurricanes. Last time John Tortorella said that I'm going to keep my stuff where it was because we'll be back here for Game 7 was 2019 when he was with the Columbus Blue Jackets playing Boston.
And he hasn't gotten that shirt back yet?
No, he didn't, because he said we're going to be back here for Game 7 because we shook Tuukka Rask. Boston shut Columbus out 3-0 the next game. So, I think this one's done. Carolina's going to win it.
Yeah, I think Bussy, for whatever reason, has stolen the show here. And how often do you see this kind of moment happen in the playoffs? I think it's over. I think they close it out.
Give me Vegas in this one. I think they find a way to get it done. And then in Game 7, we get to see the greatest thing in sports. Game 7 Stanley Cup Final, Hurricanes versus Vegas. We will discuss all of that and so much more with you guys on Monday. For Alex and T-Bone, I'm BK. Appreciate you tuning in. As always, the Fast Lane's next here on 101 ESPN.